There I am. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and this is our continuing legal coverage of the people of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Karen Reed. We started late today because the jury view was this morning. We're not going to miss anything. I think they were in court for a little bit. I mean, we didn't miss anything substantive, but we'll watch it. We'll watch it because I think we still have some time to kill before they get back from the view. If you don't know what that means, they went out to the house at 34 Fairview, and the jurors got to walk around the property. So we'll what we'll do now is we will check out what happened earlier. I've got it queued up for whatever we've missed, and we'll see what's what. See what happened. It's going to be a short day, y'all. Half day. And I'm assuming that includes the jury view. Got OnlyFans, chilling. What's up? All you beautiful humans, how you doing? Good morning, Naomi. Love the UK. Love it. All right, I've got some blooping time here, obviously.
Within and for the county of Norfolk.
Bringing the jury in.
CR 117. The parties are present. Our 18 jurors are present. The matter is on for trial.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good morning again, counsel. Good morning again, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. When we leave you out there, we're very much aware that we're leaving you in another room waiting, but we were working this morning to help streamline things and we were successful. So we do appreciate your patience. I do have to ask you those questions. Were you all able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday? Yes. Everyone nodded affirmatively or said yes. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case? Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did any of you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case since we left yesterday? No. Thank you. Everyone said no. All right, folks, as you know, this morning we are going on a view. And a view is simply, we're going to a place that you've heard about and that you will continue to hear about during the course of the trial. The purpose of the view is to help you better understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the course of the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. So the view that we're going on is part of the case, and it means that the observations that you make there can be used and considered by you in your deliberations on this case in reaching a verdict. So we're going to, you've heard 34 Fairview Road in Canton. The lawyers and I will accompany you. For the Commonwealth, we'll be accompanied by Attorney Brennan, and ADA Lally, ADA Schillinger, and for the defense, Attorney Yannetti and Attorney Little. The lawyers will have the opportunity, Mr. Yannetti and Mr. Brennan, have the opportunity to point out various things that they may want you to direct your attention to. Otherwise, there's no conversation between the lawyers and the jurors. So it's simply in a few minutes, you'll hear a little bit from each Mr. Brennan and Ms. Giannetti about what they want you to look at. And then when we get there, they'll direct you, look in this direction. They won't be able to
Tear down.
testify to you, but they'll direct you on what they want you to look at. While you're in the view, you're not to take any notes. You're not to take any pictures. You're not to conduct any independent investigation at all during the view or any time during the trial. You're not to return to this scene or ask anybody to go back there for you. Today's your chance. You'll see photographs during the course of the trial, I bet, but today's your chance to really look at everything. So the best way to summarize a view is that your job is to simply stop and look. It's really no more complicated than that. So your responsibility is to see the place, observe it carefully, and to remember what you see. Now, during the trip to and from the view, and while at the view, you're not to discuss this case or anything about it with other jurors. We'll be accompanied by court officers who will direct you. And the court officers are there for all of us. So you'll be under their supervision until you're returned back here. So that's basically it. We'll be leaving in a few minutes, but first, before Madam Clerk swears the court officers in, Mr. Brennan, do you want to make a view opening?
May I?
Please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As Her Honor explained to you, we're going to go to 34 Fairview Road. We have some exhibits that are already in evidence. You haven't had a long time to look at them, study them. But essentially, we're going to go to 34 Fairview Road. I ask you just to pay attention to the street, the front yard of the home. And you'll see to the left side of the front yard in the corner, there'll be a car. It's the Lexus that we've spoken about, the defendant's Lexus. And you'll also see a flagpole and a fire hydrant. And so I'd ask you to take a look from different vantage points. Take a look from that area where the flagpole is, from where the fire hydrant is. And you'll see on the street before the grass is a little firm, concrete that comes up a little bit. I'd ask you just to note that when you go there. One thing I'd suggest is April 25th, 2025, not January 22nd, 2022. So the weather will be very different. The temperature will be different. The conditions will be different. We're going to go there probably at 10 o'clock. It won't be the same visibility. It won't be the same elements and the same colors. Keep that in mind when you're looking around. When you look at the Lexus, there's a couple things that actually.
It's not a blizzard, Hank? Really?
There is some evidence already in photographs of the right rear tail light. When you look at that tail light, it will be different in the photograph than as an evidence. It has been removed, so it will appear differently, and you'll later get testimony explaining that process. Also, I'd ask you to make a note on the Lexus about the height of the bumper. I'd ask you to make note of the height of the right rear tail light. And I'd also ask you to take note of, on the top of the hatchback, there is a part that protrudes. I'd ask you to look at that as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. As I told you at the start of the trial, my name is David Giannetti. I have an office in Boston and in Dedham. And on behalf of my co-counsel, we will be accompanying you on the view that you will take today. Although the view is not evidence, I suggest to you that you will find it to be helpful, important, even necessary as you later do your investigation of this case within the four walls of this courtroom. We've already received into evidence, some photos and videos, but there is no substitute for your own two eyes. As we all know, photos and videos sometimes can be misleading in terms of relative distances, depending upon the perspective from which the photo is taken. But your eyes are the best computer that you could bring to the view.
You're lying.
When we get to 34 Fairview, we will be pointing out certain things that we'd like you to observe. The house, the second floor window to that house,
Oh.
the 3 front doors in the front of the house, a driveway, street, the front lawn, and the flagpole. And we'll be asking you specifically to consider the distance between that second floor front window and the front lawn. The distance between the front doors to the house and that front lawn, the distance between the driveway to the front lawn. And we'll be asking you to take a good look at that Lexus, to stand next to it, to size it up, to take it in. You were all selected as jurors because the parties entrusted that you would do a proper investigation of this case within this courtroom. On behalf of Ms. Reed, we have every confidence that you will do a proper investigation. Thank you.
All right, jurors, I have to make something very clear. So the purpose of this view is to help you better to understand the evidence that you'll hear during the trial and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. The view you'll take is part of this case. The observations that you make while on the view may be used and considered by you in your deliberations in reaching a verdict. So at the end of the trial, when I explain to you what is evidence and what is not, I'll remind you that your observations on this view can be used by you in your deliberations. Also, while you're in the view, the same way you're not to take any notes or photographs, you're not to conduct any investigation on this case. You really are simply to stop and look, okay? Those are the instructions. We will see you in a few minutes. All right, thank you.
And look at
Oh, sorry,
this.
Madam Clerk has to swear in the court officers.
You could all raise your right hand, please.
Somebody busts
Do
out
each
a
of you
tape
solemnly
measure.
swear that you will take the jury upon the premises in question and there suffer them to view the same or any property, place, or thing bearing upon the issue in the trial as the parties may think necessary, that you will not permit the parties to enter into a debate in the hearing of the jury, nor any person to speak to them unless it be the attorneys of record, then only to point out such places or things as they may deem expedient for the determination of the issues, that you will keep the jury together until they shall return to court, unless the court shall otherwise order, so help you God. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All rise, please. Jurors, follow me.
What up, CS? What up, Ruby? What's up, all you beautiful humans? All right, so.
Goodbye.
Oh, well, goodbye to you, OnlyFan. I didn't know OnlyFan talked to us now. That's an upgrade. That is an upgrade. All right, so we have quite a bit of blooping time. Because that's why I didn't start it. I didn't feel like trying to kill an hour plus while we were waiting for the jury to get back. So, and I didn't feel the need to get up at 7:45 for y'all to watch that. I figured you'd go over to Mel's or Andrea, check it out over there, and then come back home. I'll give you the whistle. It's dinner time. You guys all come running. I love it. I love it. So happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's my morning jacket weekend for Allie and I. We're driving to Louisville tomorrow after the softball game. We're gonna make that 5-hour drive. Oh,
Bouncy chair. Got my knees. I hit my knee on the.
Oh, I thought that was like elderly lady noises. Like
Sure.
I make.
Too.
Oh.
You know, somebody was asking in one of the other lives, like, does the chair hurt your back, this or that? Like, it wasn't hurting my back, but then, like, I think Nanook, when I was walking him and he tried to, like, with all his might, chase after some
Squirrel.
Wildlife,
Squirrel.
I tweaked my back. So now I don't know if the answer is yet, because I have a bad back. So if it hurts your back, I would definitely be the one to tell you. Like, initially it wasn't, but now my back's hurt, so I can't tell if it is or.
So my review on the ball chair, and I'll sit on it if we're 6 hours, 7 hours, I'm sitting on it the whole time. So what it does force you to do, if you sit with poor posture, it starts to make you sore. It forces you to sit with good posture because that's the only time you're not sore. So if I kind of get lazy and I'm like slumping forward a little bit, it like forces me to sit back up straight because then I don't have the aching. Like I feel it in my trapezoids quite a
I've
bit.
I've never felt it in my trapezoids, but my tailbone would get sore just because it's firm.
That one day, see, my tailbone doesn't even touch it.
Well, I don't know, maybe it's not my tailbone, but I just don't want you
It
thinking
might
like
be because you
you
know.
said your glutes hurt, and this is not like my muscle glutes pain hurt. It's like my butt feels sore, but not like muscle glute sore. I know what that sore. I know when I'm like working out what my butt sore feels like, and that's not the same as like I've been sitting in the car too long and my ass is sore.
Yeah, no, that like that mine wasn't that. It was definitely, but like that went away within a couple of days. And then it started to be like I got this like I was telling you, I had that like searing pain in my my traps. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on with my trapezoids? Killing me.
Oh boy. We do have the best chat, but they do often go for those of you that are newer here, men love their and I'm assuming none of your business is a man just based on the joke.
I think Nanya's a
But
woman.
all right. Well, equal sex, equal gender, they like their jokes.
Oh yeah. We have the smartest, funniest chat in the land. That's well established. That is well established. That's no joking matter, my
No,
dear.
I'm just laughing about the kind of stuff I'm talking about that you guys laugh at.
Wow.
Like he said, wait, or he or she said, wait, they make chairs for your balls.
Yeah, that's one thing that I kind of feel during the course of the day. Like I get some discomfort in the balls. Like that's like that's an area where if you
Ah.
kind of see me adjusting, that might be me adjusting the balls on the ball. So, you know.
Wow.
Hey. Yeah,
Hey,
I was texting I
with
was
the
texting
cat
Mandy yesterday.
sound,
I was like,
by the way.
all right, listen, one person doesn't like the cat.
No,
I don't
but
know.
everyone does say, like, their cats are going crazy. Let's just pick another sound that means the
I
same thing.
love the cat. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna leave it to the people. I'm gonna
Oh,
leave it to the
they all like to
people.
agree with you.
No, they don't. I do not want you people to agree with me. I want you to give your honest opinion. We've got tons and tons of sound effects.
Oh, see, then Mandy came in hot with one of another joke, another joke.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
That's the humor, people.
I see
So,
what you did
this
there,
is good.
Mandy. I see what you did there. All right, so I'm gonna run the let me see. All right. I'm doing this. I can't be
Do
stopped.
not call it
I'm not gonna
what
call it
Mandy
that.
said.
Why? Because it was so crude and vulgar.
It was crude and vulgar. Oh, look, show your 33rd, 33rd, 33rd,
What?
33. What? Why can't what?
Huh?
Huh? I was
What?
trying to get this comment up, but I couldn't figure out how to say. I lost it.
Yeah, you did.
Show your. What does that mean? Your 33rd.
I don't know. Where's oh my
Oh my
god.
God.
Hey, oh, I hate the cat sound. Show
Uh,
your 33rd, your 33th. See, for everyone, it's I love the cat sounds. All right,
oh,
so
like teeth. Show your teeth. Your
oh,
33rd.
I get it.
All right, peep. Everyone else got it but me. You know, it happens. I can't even really blame perimenopause brain.
I didn't get it either, babe. So it's you and me all the way. Oh,
All right, so I don't know.
Amanda, we love that. Either way, we love that you're here. We
Yes.
adore that you are here.
Yes, we do. So
Wow.
I don't know, you were probably talking about something compelling before I chimed in, hit my knee. We got into the ball discussion, now the
Compelling
cat.
and rich. Yes.
But I do have something I wanted to discuss, but I wanted you to finish whatever you're talking about before I came in hot.
Wait, did you come up? That's long gone, girl. I
Okay.
mean, you can't, at my advanced age, you can't possibly think for as much as I yap, There is not a chance in hell that I'm remembering anything that I was talking about at that point. I think I was just kind of
Saying hi to
generally
the people.
stating, yeah.
Why
saying
aren't we
hi.
seeing OnlyFan? What is happening?
Well, I think when they went on the View, they booted
OnlyFan?
everybody.
Oh, they're on a View.
Yeah, no, I don't think they booted OnlyFans.
So did they do anything before the View that I missed?
They did not. They did
So
not.
did they
They
just
did.
leave for the View and now we're sitting here now? Or
No,
I
no,
thought the
no.
whole
They left for the View right at 9. So
okay. I thought we were coming at 10 to give time for the View to be done. But
no, and they said that the drive over to 34 Fairview from the court, like the chat, is about 20 minutes each way. So you could build in 40 minutes for that.
in 40
Like,
minutes.
I mean,
20 minutes
like,
there. We should have started at 10, but it gives me a chance to say what the things that I didn't say.
say all
So
the things, babe.
say all the things. So the most like shocking thing to me, and I was technically here, but I was off. I was off screen and I wasn't actually sitting here. So I did not hear Brennan make the argument that he has health data of Jen McCabe and this is the part that I missed, to show that her heartbeat did not spike. Hence, she is not involved in a conspiracy, which is, darn it, I wish I was quicker on the buttons because
It's outrageous, egregious, preposterous.
first of all, you would need an expert to say what you would expect a heart rate to do if you are doing a Google search.
I think
mean, is that
might have been
what it,
better.
I'm not
huh?
sure that I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou.
Both do both
That's
work.
why we got it. That's why
Yeah.
we got it.
Yes, yes.
That is from one of the greatest movies of all time. Name that movie. You should know it immediately.
Well, everyone who's been here before today already knows it, and then probably most of the free world.
Yet we're sitting here at
It takes a minute.
no, it doesn't.
The
It's
text, yeah,
instantaneous.
I see people are sometimes a little bit behind time or whatever. Plus, when you're upstairs and I'm watching on my phone, I hear you saying something, but that's not what I'm hearing.
All right. I mean, if you guys didn't think the cat noise was perfect when Carrie Roberts was on the stand, I cannot help you.
For that, it was like
She
that
was
one
catty
time.
as hell. All
It
right.
was at one time.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. If you have cats, tell them to leave the room right now because I'm going to play that sound only. I won't play the whole
For the purposes of the
thing,
poll.
and then I'm going to do the poll. It's only for the poll.
Is there a way to edit the sound, reduce the sound on just one thing? No.
No, I think it's an all or nothing proposition.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it doesn't sound that loud. So
it can be startling.
it can be horrifying. All right. Have you asked your cats politely to leave the room? And your dogs, if your dog, like, I'm shocked. Nanook,
Because it doesn't.
who wants to eat every cat, or at least he thinks he wants to eat every cat that he sees, doesn't even glance over when I play the cat sound at all. It's crazy. He's sitting right next to me on his chaise here, like the king that he is.
So the people have been warned.
Okay. All right. Ready? Here it is. That
Maybe,
is the cat
Mandy,
sound.
I don't know if a less angry cat. I guess we need to ask the people. But if the poll is overwhelmingly,
All right, I'm throwing.
I don't care what the poll
up.
says. Then you're using it very, whatever the word
Because
is.
look, here's the bottom line.
In often
Over at our house, this is a democracy. This is not an oligarchy up in here. I'm not like, I love the cat sound. Eat it.
OnlyFan.
OnlyFan.
She's back.
All right, I'm running the poll.
All right. By the way, on that post about the light, the chandelier light that they put the other day, where someone asked, like, what's her name? At first, I said she's the jealous, evil step sister of OnlyFan, but they wanted a name, so I did Chandrizella, which is like Cinderella's sister is Drizella, so Chandrizella. That's what her name is to me if she shows her ugly face again.
All right, so I'm
Yes,
not I'm
yes,
not
Deb.
I wrote this poll completely
Anti
unbiased.
Deb. Chandrazella. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Chandrazella.
Allie's gonna be so pissed when she sees this poll.
Oh gosh. I think I'm getting worried that I had more people on my side for the family hug. Well, for the
Oh, dude, you were way off on the family hug. Like,
there were some people that were with
there was
me.
no comparison. Everyone, like, there were 3 people. Anyone who wouldn't want a family hug, I don't know what
Aw,
to tell you.
family hug.
It should make you feel
It's
good.
here now. It's here for good,
I'm
obviously.
trying to get honey, I adore you. I love you. That hug was never going anywhere, baby. That was the one I would have died on the hug hill. I would have died. So, Little Miss Velvet, if you're just jumping in, the cat noise seems to be quite controversial. Well, Jacqueline, I can control the length of it.
If
I
we get
mean,
a different cat
once
sound.
Mandy's on the cat, though, look out. I mean, like, I was
We
definitely
can't
one
turn
during
sorry.
Carrie Roberts that was like heavily catting. All right, so right now, babe, this I don't you can't see it. So here's what the poll said. Keep the cat sound or lose it. That's the question. And I said keep it because it's hilarious or lose it because I hate fun.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I wasn't trying to sway the poll
No,
at all.
clearly.
At all.
Clearly.
At all. I'm gonna let it
So
run for a bit.
I'm gonna do a
Right.
new one that says keep the cats on because I love it. Um, because I'm a goofball. Actually, I'll say that. Or lose it because it sucks.
Lose it because it annoys the shit out of me
Right.
and my animal or animals, whatever the
As
case
fun
may
as
be.
I am, that one I don't love so much. That's what mine would say. Lose it because
Wow.
despite how much I love fun. All
I
right,
am
so
known as the fun queen, and I feel that particular noise may not be fun at all.
heavily catted instead of debated. Heavily catted.
Well, Al, you were trying to get me to get rid of Wiggum, which
Well, your story is very compelling, Mr. Jackass. Well,
it's so good.
I just don't feel it. I don't know.
Did you ever watch The Simpsons?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
serious question.
I did watch The Simpsons.
You did?
Yeah.
You don't seem to have a real appreciation for
I
Chief
mean,
Wiggum.
yeah, that's not one of my favorite sounds.
It's twofold of why I like it. He vaguely resembles Hank in that he's very nasally. And 2, it's talking about a story and then calling the person jackass. So, it's a beautiful fit
It's gotcha. It's
for this
gotcha.
case. Like,
All right, so let me go back
that's
to
a case-specific sound effect, which
let me
we
go
don't
back to some legal analysis on the whole. I'm going to tell that Jennifer's McCabe's heart rate wasn't high enough to be involved in a conspiracy. You need some science to back that up. You need to have her analyzed. How do you know what she was doing on any of the times that her heart beat? It's so fucking ridiculous.
Hey, language.
I can't even believe. Okay, well, for anyone else who's new, we use the F bomb. If you don't like that, you can get.
I try to keep it limited.
Well, I mean,
You wanna use it
I'm
for
very
fun.
limited with it.
I mean, you just dropped the F-bomb right there, like
All
it
right, but I was going to
was
say, what does Melanie call it? She's got another word,
ducking.
ducking.
Yeah.
So if it gets too much for you, Attorney Melanie Little, who we love, she will say ducking. And I have to bite my tongue if stay very
Thanks,
conscious
Sarah
if I'm on
D.
her channel.
Making it
All right.
rain.
So going back to this, it's ridiculous. I can't even believe that it was like allowed to be said in a courtroom without the lawyers being like, "What? No, how?" Like, no, that's not a thing. It's yeah, you don't just get to put on people's heart rate and tell the jury to make their own decision that this person was not under any stress, or how she reacts to stress, or what a Google search would be doing to her heart rate. But I don't even know, is that the Google search time? Is that what time is he relying on this heart rate?
I don't know. It has to be right around the Google search time, right?
Ridiculous. Okay, so there was some other things that really had me worked up that I can't remember. Um, but let's see if people have got some questions that um did you already answer this?
little Miss Red Velvet says, Bob, delete the cat noise. Bob, delete
Delete the
the
cat
cat
noise.
noise. It's quite a battle. We are
Well,
it
if
is
it's that much of a
yeah.
battle, then it shows it's not overwhelmingly loved. So since some
It's
people actually
68-32.
but some
If that
people
were
act
an election, that would be considered an absolute landslide.
but here's the thing, the people who don't like it, I think they actually hate it, where the people who do like it are like, "Yeah, it's kinda funny," but it's not like,
Excuse me here. I'm gonna completely disavow that. It's perfect.
ugh,
I love it. I love it. So I think what we have here, babe, is a classic love it or hate it situation. I don't think there's any in between.
well, here's my
It's
position
kind of
on it.
like Radiohead. Either you
No
love
one
Radiohead or you don't like Radiohead. I don't think people are like, Radiohead's okay. It's either like they're your jam or they're not your jam.
no one loves it so much that they're gonna say, "I'm not gonna watch
Like
this because
you
of it."
saying that is the equivalent to them trying to get Jen McCabe's heart rate in randomly without having any context of what Jen McCabe's heart rate is normally during the evenings when she's Google searching. That was you just pulled a Hank Brennan right then and
Okay.
there. That's what you
Point
just did.
being, some people, they're gonna have to, like, predict it and turn down their sound, like, they hate it so much.
Donovan says that
Oh,
sound
see?
will put me in shock and horror.
There you go.
There you go.
It's just not so good that it's like, "Oh, if we don't keep it, people will be sad," because that's not the case.
See, now that maybe Margie would be considered a tweener. The cat sound makes my dogs bark. So I mean, that's not an either. Like, is that a good thing? She's got the happy crying face guy.
No, that's not good. She doesn't want her dog barking.
How do you
Who
know?
wants their dog all worked up? Okay, now somebody likes when their dog gets all worked up? Come on.
I mean, I do.
All right, let's
That's how
do
I know
some
he's protecting us.
let's do some
That's a
lawyering.
good guy. What a good guy you are.
Did you answer Dixie's question? Why did
Wait,
Canton
hold on. I'm going down. So thank you very much, Sarah D. Gen X girl lawyer. Love it. 20. OG. Been here forever, and we love you. Thank
Hi,
you so
Gen
much
X
for your
girl lawyer.
generosity. CS. Wrestling Bell.
That could be an alternative. See that? She's got a great alternative
Oh,
sound.
shit. They kicked the fan on. That's always a
Oh,
good way to know. Court's getting ready to kick back
oh
on.
boy.
Judge Bev called on the bailiff on his cell.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to put the fan back on because we're about 5 minutes out.
Right. And then they kick it on because they have to have the room cool when she walks in. I mean,
Wrestling bell's a perfect alternative. There you go.
you mean
CS for the
like a
win.
boxing bell, like ding ding.
Yeah.
Wait, that's
Yeah, it's a fight
I
bell.
thought we had one. Don't we have a bell like that? Let me see here. Everyone loves the
Yeah, that's great.
straight over.
We're sorry. All circuits are busy. Please try again later.
Used the hell out of
We're
me.
sorry.
See, we have that.
The whistle actually jars me a little bit, but
To tell you I'm happy to be here, but why start with an untruth? I am accepting of my responsibility to be here. To tell you I'm happy to be.
Can I ask you one more question?
Or is that you?
What
That's
and
me.
what
I'm going through 'em.
accessories
Or
do I
whatever that
sell
one
for a
was. I couldn't even tell.
Guilty man in Shawshank.
Right.
So I wore this ridiculous thing for you.
I love that.
Boring. Boring.
Yeah, see, I like a Simpsons soundbite.
Point out on this map what I want to know.
Yeah. See,
That
that's
one.
great.
That one's
Excuse me.
hard for the
Excuse
right
me.
place, though. It's like
It's right. Like, but listen to it. Like,
I know.
Take your wiener snitch so they can finger and point out on this map what I want to know.
Number one, name the movie. There's no way.
We already went through that. That's Tyler Durden.
Oh my God.
Oh, I
No.
thought you were asking me. Sorry.
Right actor, wrong movie. I am asking you, and that's not Tyler Durden.
Oh, take your little wiener schnitzer.
That's a good hint. Don't be cheating looking in the chat because somebody's gonna know that.
No, I don't actually have the starred things up. So on the map.
Oh wait, the fan stopped. What the hell is going
Oh
on?
no. She's like, wait a minute, we're not here yet.
Yes, science.
Let's see.
Thank you very much.
Oh, the one with the Nazis.
Yep, that's it.
The Crazy Eight.
The Jew Bear. No.
Oh, the Jew Bear. That's what it was called?
No, that was one of the characters.
Oh. I was like, oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue.
I know I'm not giving it to
Hateful Eight.
No, I just told
No.
you no. I knew
yeah.
that's what you meant the first time. That was
Right.
the Western.
Oh, right.
Sam
This
Jackson.
one's the give me one word, not the most obvious word.
I am not giving you any hints. I'm going to force your perimenopause brain to like. You'll get it. You'll
Like I
get
know
it.
I have it. It's right there. I can think of like that. There's that word that's in the title.
I
you know?
can't like. Where is my? Oh, here. This is the one. This.
You have a kind of sick desperation in your laugh.
I like that.
That
one.
see, for me, that one's so low. It's really hard.
I can fix that.
How?
Re-recording it like I did the sound for Fargo.
Oh.
Like that's how I got the sound better for this one.
I'm not sure that I agree with you 100% on your police work there, Lou.
Was really
Boy,
soft.
that clip in particular is going to get played an awful lot.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, we just can't overuse it.
Excuse me? What define overuse?
Like two or three, like 4 times with the same witness in an
I
hour.
find that you underutilize. I find you to be a chronic.
I'm definitely underutilized. And then if I get on it, then I'm like on it, and then I keep wanting to do it. Oh, I got a sound. Got a sound for that. Oh, got a sound for that.
Mm-hmm. Aw, family hug. Thanks, Dawn. We love you so much. Jesse. Hi, Pam. What's up, Jesse? Member for 5 months. We love that. And we love
Thank you for your generosity.
Breenan's Body Chalk. Member for 1 month.
8 dogs barking.
Makes my dogs bark. I have 8 dogs.
So I know this is not a dictatorship, but it's out. It's
What?
out. The cat.
That's outrageous. That is outrageous. Here, I've got just the clip for you. And I don't care that we've just heard it.
I was going to say, and you just basically said it.
That was wonderful. Bravo. I loved that. That was great. Well, it was pretty good. Well, it wasn't bad. Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though. It could have been a lot better. I didn't really like it. It was pretty terrible. It was bad. It was awful. It was terrible. Get him away. Hey, boo. Boo.
Hey, you got to save those because, we got like perfect timing for that stuff coming up when Brennan puts on some horrible witness to do some horrible testifying. I thought you were playing the Seinfeld one again.
Do you like apples? I got a number. How do you like them apples? That's pretty good.
See, all right, anyway, she's got 8 dogs barking. Did you answer Dixie's question? And thank you for your generosity as well, Brennan's Body Chalk, for being a member. Why did Canton recuse themselves so quickly? All right, give me a second, guys. I just need a second. Hold on. Where is it? God damn it. What? See, I can't do it fast enough. Oh, I found it.
Bob, you're muted. Bob, you're muted.
Thanks, babe.
Bob.
That one, can I move this thing down? I want it at the bottom so I can find it. How did it get in the middle?
I mean, like something's
added-
always going to be in the middle.
Yeah, but we added all these new sounds since the Bob, you're muted.
Yeah.
Man,
I'm
we are some
constantly,
sound.
Mandy's adding sounds, you're adding sounds, I'm adding sounds. I added this one just for you.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's a good one.
They're searching.
If you don't know, that's that's
Chad Daybell.
Yeah, Chad Dumbbell Daybell. That's him.
Wow, the Karen, geez. Lori.
Anyone who thinks that this guy
They're searching.
was running shit is out of their goddamn mind. I mean,
Babe, I'm
clip-
not saying running shit. I'm saying he knew he was lying to Lori when he told Lori her kids were dark. He said that.
He was playing the game, girl. Like all he cared about was that poo nanny. That's
Well,
all.
so he was doing-
That's all he cared about. Whatever
fair
he
share of
needed to
manipulating.
say, whatever kind of half-baked shit she wanted to hear, light and darkness scales. Yeah, you're the goddess. Yeah, I know Jesus is talking to you. Whatever he needed to say, he was going to say that so he could keep the loins of fire a burning. That is what, dude. That's the only thing that guy cared about. That guy didn't have a thought in his brain that was original. Like all of his books, which I
So
of
he
course
let
not
the
read,
kids get slaughtered for the punani, is what you're saying.
100%. 100%. Like, dude, it was the dude killed his wife. He did, like, nothing was stopping him from keeping the loins of fire.
I think he had his
burning.
eye on more than just his loins.
I don't think so. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Gaffigan knows. Gaffigan knows. Wait, I don't. So thank you, John O'Keefe's head injury, 199. In case anyone is wondering,
Well, maybe he said something.
what is that a picture of there?
Oh, I think it is that thing that
What they're claiming caused John O'Keefe's head injury?
yeah, I think so, actually. But at first
I
thought
can't
there
make
was,
it out because I'm
yeah,
blind.
it's definitely like a weight bar kind of thing. I thought that there was probably a comment without a super sticker that I needed to be looking for.
Yeah, is everybody like super happy it's Friday aside from me? I'm like really, really happy.
And
I'm
if
happy for two
anyone,
reasons. I'm happy that it's Friday, and I'm happy that we have a short court date because I'm going down and recording Garcia as soon as I get off. That's what I'm doing.
and if anyone, if I, I don't realize sometimes when I'm bouncing and I notice I'm doing it more and more. I was more, I think, conscious of it before. Just let me know. I'll happily switch to my other chair if it's bothering. I know some people have.
Akasha, I did see that. I couldn't watch all of it because I don't want to look at her face and hear her.
I didn't see it. What was she saying?
Just like that, she was like, like the little surprise she was found guilty. She's like, I realized it was a possibility, but I have to be honest, I was a little surprised they found me guilty.
What? Isn't she all knowing? She is a goddess. What the hell? That seems something doesn't track with that.
What she is
She's
out her
God.
damn mind.
How doesn't she?
She nuts. It's like I think people are kind of taken aback by the fact that she's not like a sweaty tooth mad woman. Like, so they're like, well, she's not.
No, people
crazy.
know.
I'm like, she's crazy. Oh, there's movement.
People know.
She cracked. Oh, Christine, she loves the bouncing and she hates everything. I hate it all.
I love that. I love to tell Bob how I hate people.
back in session. You may be seated.
Most people. Camilla says it.
Who is your next witness?
You're on the call. We'll call Dr. Gary Fowler to the stand.
Thank you.
Doctor who? Whoops.
I don't know, they'll re-say it.
I'm just saying that's not someone we heard from before. Sounds like.
So
new
there's
to me.
two things. One, they have a different woman speaking into the elephant trunk, and the elephant trunk has gotten a massive upgrade.
Maybe he's going to talk
Newfangled.
about heart rates when
You
people
solemnly
are
swear that
Googling.
the testimony you shall give to the
He's
court
got his
and the
Poland
jury in
Springs
the matter
water
now
at the
only
ready,
shall be
though.
the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Sure.
I've got in-person court, so I won't be with you guys this afternoon.
Good morning, doctor.
There is no this afternoon. It's half day.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Lally!
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name?
Holy shit! I guess Lally is doing something.
Wow.
It's Lally.
Lally time.
Objection. Wow, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. All right, sorry. I got so excited to hear Lally.
For the court.
My name is Dr. Gary Fowler, Epperson Frank, A-L-L-E-R.
And what is your occupation?
I am a physician pathologist.
And where do you work?
I work currently at Signature Healthcare in Brockton.
And how long have you worked at Signature and in what capacity, sir?
Signature, I started, it's probably 6 months. I took a new job 6 months ago. I am the chief of pathology and the laboratory medical director at Signature.
And where did you work prior to your work at Signature about 6 months ago?
Prior to that, I was at Good Samaritan Medical Center in the same capacity.
And how long did you work at Good Samaritan for?
Since 2015, late 2015.
All right, so this just
And
he was at the
did you work in any capacity similar to that prior to working at Good Samaritan?
Prior to Good Samaritan, I worked at the Kearney Hospital, which is in Dorchester. Started that job in 1996. So I stayed on staff at Kearney Hospital up until actually closed 6 months ago. So I've been on staff at Kearney's for quite a long time.
Where did you go to school and what degrees did you receive?
I went to college at Tufts University in Medford, graduated in '87. From there, I went to Tufts Medical School and graduated in 1991.
And following your graduation, where did you go from there?
After medical school, I did a residency at Tufts Medical Center in 1991 to 1996.
And then where did you go following your residency?
And right from residency, my first job was at Kearney Hospital, which I previously mentioned. So 1996.
And doctor, are you board certified?
I am board certified in anatomic pathology and clinical pathology.
And what is a board certification?
Board certification is something we need.
It's like
what is pathology?
Pathology is well, there are two basic branches of pathology: anatomic pathology and clinical pathology. Anatomic pathology is basically, an anatomic pathologist is a physician or MD or a DO trained to make diagnoses on patients via looking at tissue biopsies, organs, tissue fluids, and we're also trained in autopsy pathology as well. So basically, an anatomic pathologist, we look at tissues via glass slides. Slides are made, and we every day make the diagnosis of, somebody has a cancer or somebody doesn't have a cancer, benign. Look at colon polyps, breast biopsies, pretty much anything that comes out of the operating room
objecting
or
to
a
a
physician's
witness.
office, any sort of biopsy. Clinical pathology, on the other hand, is basically a clinical pathologist is a physician, an MD or a DO, who specializes in the clinical lab, which basically is any fluid specimen, including blood specimens. When you go to the hospital and you have your blood test and it gets sent to the lab, the clinical pathologist is ultimately responsible for the quality of your lab tests and quality, and basically that's it.
And so the time that you worked at Good Samaritan, did that cover the date of January 29th, 2022?
Yes.
And again, what was your title and what was your job at Good Samaritan in the month of January 2022?
I was the chief of pathology at the time and laboratory medical director.
What did you do as the laboratory medical director?
Laboratory medical director, basically, the laboratory medical director is responsible for the ultimate quality of any, either whether it's a biopsy, somebody's biopsy, or lab result. The laboratory medical director has to make sure that the final result is of excellent quality. So there are many different things that we need to make sure that things that are in place, as far as need to make sure we have the correct amount of workers. You want to have enough workers. You want to make sure they're competent. So as many, there are policies for competency for all the lab techs and phlebotomists and even pathologists. So basically the laboratory medical director, if something goes wrong, it's ultimately his or her fault.
I'll look for that one.
And the lab at Good Samaritan, is that lab accredited?
Yes, it is.
And by what body?
We are accredited, or Good Samaritan is accredited by the, we call it the CAP. It's a College of American Pathologists. They are considered the preeminent accrediting body for hospitals. They've been around for probably 70 plus years or so.
What is accreditation? What does that mean?
Accreditation is basically something that says that your laboratory is following guidelines and providing excellent quality. To be accredited with the CAP, every 2 years we have a laboratory inspection. They don't tell you when they're coming. They will give you a 3-month window and they'll come and inspect you to make sure we have a good quality lab. Each section of the lab, pathology, the clinical lab, microbiology, chemistry, hematology, the CAP has a checklist with numerous requirements that one needs to fulfill. There are probably over 3,000 items that they look at.
And was your laboratory at Good Samaritan, was the accreditation up to date on January 29th, 2022?
We were accredited, still are.
Now, in Good Samaritan Medical Center, when a blood test is ordered, what types of things is the lab testing for?
I think the most common tests that are performed when you go and you have your blood tests is one is chemistry, a chemistry test where we sodium, potassium, chloride, glucose. We also a common test is a CBC, or a complete blood count, where we look at your red blood cells and your white blood cells and your platelets. Those are the two most common tests.
And why is blood testing ordered in the course of medical treatment at a hospital?
When you're admitted to the hospital, usually you're sick, so the physician is usually a standard, ordering chemistry and CBC to see if there are any clues in those tests that could help the doctor take care of you. You know, if they look at a BUN and creatinine, maybe if they're elevated, you either could it be dehydrated or have renal failure. If you look at liver function tests, maybe there's something wrong with your liver. So it's just a general, a good look at the patients to see if there are any clues that could help them.
And as far as the blood testing results are concerned, how does that assist either a doctor or a clinician in treatment and diagnosis?
Basically, what I just said. If there's nothing, if the results are normal, that sometimes helps too. Rules things out. If they're normal, if they do a CBC and look at the hemoglobin and it's low and patient's anemic, maybe the patient might need a transfusion. So there are many different case scenarios where the results can help the provider, the clinician.
Boring.
Now, with reference to alcohol, does the Good Samaritan Medical Center, do they also test alcohol within the blood?
Yes, we do.
And why would that assist medical treatment and diagnosis?
I think if a physician is wanting to know if somebody's been drinking or has alcohol on board, or maybe not, maybe that patient has ingested maybe drugs of abuse, so they'll test for alcohol to see if it's positive, and if it is, then it helps confirm that the patient has been drinking.
Now, are there any policies and protocols at Good Samaritan Medical Center with reference to how blood is taken and how blood is tested?
Yes, we have numerous policies. We have one policy specifically for phlebotomists. Those are laboratory technicians who draw the blood. So we have a policy for them to explain exactly what they need to do. And also in the laboratory, we have numerous policies basically for any tests that we provide. And so we have a policy for alcohol testing as well.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, I'm placing before you two sets of documents. Just ask you to review those generally and look up when you're finished.
Yes, science.
And do you recognize what those are, sir?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what is contained within each of those two sets of documents?
Okay. The first one is a patient preparation for specimen collection. This is the policy that I was mentioning, specifically designed for our phlebotomist to detail the procedure of the blood draw. Basically goes through one of the most important parts of the process is correct patient identification, where we need to correctly identify the patient. We have the patient state his or her first and last name and state it out loud to make sure it matches which the patient that we're trying to draw. And then we also match up the bracelet to the medical record number on the patient's bracelet. So one of the most important things is correct patient identification. The rest of this policy goes on and just pretty much details what to do next, including finding the veins, cleaning the site. It has some information on if there are any complications. So it's basically the entire process of the blood draw.
Tell me more.
The second one is our alcohol policy, which pretty much details in detail what goes on behind the scenes for an alcohol blood test in our hospital.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, Caldwell, so you can introduce in the minutes the next two exhibits.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, for the record, it would be the patient preparation for specimen collection, the next exhibit in line. And the ETOH policy would be the next exhibit number 37.
How do y'all think that a dog sound won't get your dogs going or your cats going as well? Isn't it the same concept? Any kind of animal noise is going to set the...
Now, doctor,
what if anything?
What types of precautions are in place at Good Samaritan with respect specifically to alcohol testing in the blood? Or I should say taking the blood sample from the patient.
Yes, one of the major things we need to do with taking somebody's blood for alcohol is to obviously not use an alcohol swab. Normally, when you have your blood test, they cleanse the area with a swab that contains alcohol. So in our policy is a specific statement that says, do not use alcohol swab, because potentially when you're drawing the blood, if you suck up some of that residual alcohol, you could cause a false positive. We have in our policy, and it's every hospital should have the same policy where we use a swab.
Look at Lally. Just look at him.
Can't
Just
even
look at
shave.
him. Oh, look
He
at him.
looks like he looks unshaven.
He's growing a goatee, my love. And he's doing that. It's not quite as large as the Alan Jackson side wings, but it's close. It's close. Like, what is the deal? And
I don't know.
like if you go to
and the lip
Boston, you draw a
smacking.
bad beer.
How many people in the same geographical location can lip smack? It's like a geographical oddity.
Everyone.
I can't remember the last time I met a lip smacker.
Objection.
90% of the people who testify in this case are lips. Almost all the cops. If you
I would
are
love to
any
hear
official
you, but I want
capacity,
to get back to the scintillating
sorry.
testimony.
Sorry. Well, no, now we're building
Obviously,
in
I'm
blip
kidding.
time.
We have no blip time.
We're
There is
building
no
it in right now.
1.5.
But I was starting to get excited because I wasn't listening to it. Then I got it on. I was getting a drink, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, is he going to give us John's level? But it sounds like all of this buildup is just, it sounds like what happened this time. The defense wasn't stipulating a shit. They're like, you bring in everybody and you lay the foundation for everything.
Here's what we're going to stipulate to. Nothing. Nothing.
A swab that has no alcohol. We call them a moist towelette. That's what we refer them to.
All right, everybody, I'm going to allow you to take a breath. I know some people's ears just started bleeding. Some people might have passed out and fallen off their chair. Compose yourself. Compose yourself. I'm sending a strongly worded email to this particular forensic pathologist and telling him never, ever say that word on the stand again.
Strike three. You're
All right,
out.
wait a minute. See, this is and this is the humor, my friends, I spoke of earlier, that my husband and most of this chat, and Jay, if he were here, definitely Jay,
we miss you,
long
Jay.
lost brother, temporarily.
He's always here in my heart.
Right. Yeah. So I knew that was going to just really get everybody worked up.
Let's go.
Oh
God!
Also, in the emergency room, my supervisor pretty much removed probably 95.
That cat is temporarily unavailable to you. We have further Mata Inc. discussions after this.
I've had
because your voice is welcome. I would never say that, but for now, I don't want to hear that freaking cat.
We're sorry.
All right, Nicole says, catch up through here. My animals never register the cat noises. My cat always perks up with Bob's. It's your favorite time. It's my favorite time. Because he listened to DD Pod as a bottle baby. Aww. That is the sweetest message
My
I've ever
ears
seen. You
peak
just made
up.
my Friday.
Yeah, my ears peak up when I hear Bob say that. And I'm like, what is it, babe? And then he sits there deadpan for a minute. And then I have to say, wait, what time is it?
I love you, baby.
I love
5% of all the alcohol
Here, I'm gonna
swabs.
put it back so we don't miss one word.
Also, in the emergency room, my supervisor pretty much removed probably 95% of all the alcohol swabs. So just in case a phlebotomist forgets to not use an alcohol swab, they are hard to find.
Allegation
We
here there
need
wasn't
to
an
keep
alcohol
a few
swab
there
used?
because we need to use alcohol wipes on certain tests like blood cultures and stuff
Come on,
like
buddy.
that. So
When were the alcohol swabs
Where do they keep
removed
the cotton
from
balls?
the emergency department?
it was before my time.
Fair to say
Military.
prior to January 29th, 2022?
Correct.
What is a phlebotomist and what do they do?
So a phlebotomist is a healthcare professional who specializes in drawing blood. So they're the ones who are trained, competent, and know what to do when they draw a patient's blood.
What kind of training do phlebotomists receive at Good Samaritan?
We try to hire
pause this a
phlebotomists who have been trained. It's just easier.
Oh my
And then
God! Don't
I
make
might-
it last.
I might make a
Any
unilateral
longer.
decision to just bloop right past it.
We
but
don't
am I,
have blooping.
but we're building it in right now.
I mean,
But am I
like,
missing something? Has there been some allegation that the phlebotomist did something wrong? I mean,
yes,
technically speaking, in the way they physically drew the blood?
I think yeah. There
Oh.
was an issue with the blood draw. They
With
were
the
saying that it
actual
was,
draw.
yeah, they're
No.
saying it was an illegal draw.
Well, that's different. That's different than
Oh, I don't know.
that's what I'm saying. Like, why are we focusing on cotton swabs? How often they need them? That they're placed right there in front of everybody,
Moist towelettes. Why are we
right? And
focusing on a
and
moist
now, like,
towelette?
how do the phlebotomist gets trained? It's one thing to care about how the phlebotomist actually physically, I mean, like, goes through the motions of drawing the blood, taps the moist towelette, depths the arm, but versus the type of test that they had done, whether that testing should have been done. Those things I understand. I just don't get. Love Allie, hate the cat.
Mindy says she'll take the cat over the moist towel.
I know. I saw that.
Yeah, I'm done with this guy too. I'm done with this guy. This
All
guy is
right.
boring as shit. All right.
Well, at least you can crank him up to 1.5 until he's done.
All right.
So they can have a high school background, but if we train on site, they just need to be trained on the proper protocol, proper procedures, and demonstrate competency.
Is there any sort of proficiency testing related to phlebotomists at Good Samaritan?
There's no proficiency testing for phlebotomists, but there's competency assessments. So with phlebotomists or any laboratory technician or even pathologists, there are strict guidelines for competency. We have to always make sure people know what they're doing. And it's a CLIA or a federal government regulation or requirement. So when anybody first starts in a hospital, the requirements are, one, initial training. You can't let anybody come in on their own, without not knowing what they're doing. So we have to document that they have the initial training and they're competent. And then the law says 6 months from that, we do another competency assessment where we look at 6 elements of competency defined by CLIA. And 6 months from that, 1 year from the start date, is another competency. And then after that, it's annual thereafter. And that goes for phlebotomists, and that goes for any laboratory technician.
Doctor, once the blood is drawn by the phlebotomist, what happens then?
So the phlebotomist will draw it at the time. They need to have the specimens labeled in the patient's room because you don't want the phlebotomist to mislabel. So everything gets labeled at the patient's bedside with an initialed and with a phlebotomist initial and date and time. That blood test will then be sent to the lab. In this case, the blood was drawn in the emergency room. So it gets packaged into a plastic bag and sent in a pneumatic tube up to the laboratory.
And once it's sent to the laboratory, what happens with the sample from there?
Once we receive it, it's called receiving the specimen. There will be a technician who then goes into the computer, enters the phlebotomist's name from the tube into the computer system, enters the time, and the technologist will look and see
Next
what was
year,
ordered
20th?
and then do the appropriate next step based on what was ordered.
That was a year back.
And in a case in which alcohol is one of the items that are ordered, what is the next step as far as the testing goes?
So the next step with alcohol testing,
get to
we
work
use a
now.
specific tube, so the phlebotomist would know what tube to use. It would be a light green tube that has lithium heparin in it. It's an anticoagulant. We don't want the blood to clot, so that's why we use an anticoagulant. So the first step when testing for alcohol is that the test is designed to be performed on serum or plasma. And to get that, the next step would be to centrifuge the blood. The centrifuge is a machine that spins the blood rapidly. We spin it at around 3,300 RPMs, which is pretty fast.
What in the name
rotations per minute.
of all
And the reason why we
that
spin it
is
because
sane?
centrifugation will allow it to separate the blood components based on the density. So heavier stuff like the red blood cells will go to the bottom, and the lighter stuff like the watery component of the blood will go to the top, and some of the white cells go into the middle. But for alcohol testing, we are targeting the top part of the blood component, which would be plasma.
And then once it goes through the centrifuge process, what happens then?
So once it's centrifuged, we have the separation of the blood components. We have the plasma ready to be tested, so that technologists will walk the specimen over. It's probably 10 feet from there, and put it onto our Roche Cobas machine. That's our machine that performs our chemistries as well as alcohol testing. It goes onto a machine. All the testing is basically inside of a black box. And the label present on the...
All right, here's the deal with the blooping. We have a choice as a family. I could either bloop him, and we're not that far behind. Even with all of our shenanigans and tomfoolery, we're still probably only...
Put your mouse on that red dot and tell you exactly how many minutes are left.
Objection. I'm not doing that. I can tell you it's about 2 minutes. So if we bloop, because I'm playing him at 1 point, believe it or not, I'm playing him at 1.25. So, I mean, you tell me in the chat, do you want to burn up what little blooping we have because this guy is boring as shit? Or do we just want to keep playing him at 1.25?
So what I'd like to know is, are they not calling the guy that they called last time? They called a black guy. He was a doctor. He talked about the blood. I don't know.
I got nothing.
I think that's my recollection of what he looked like.
I got nothing. I don't remember. I can't remember. I'm in a very advanced age where I can't remember details like that. I mean, we'll find out.
Yeah, he was forthcoming. Alessi never sleeps says, "Oh yeah, he was legit." But what I mean,
Was he too legit to quit?
I don't think he was from the hospital, so he can't talk about what they did there, and their phlebotomists are trained, and whether they used a moist towelette, where the alcohol swabs are housed, how they're housed, what nurse suggested that they be placed where they be placed to trigger the phlebotomists to something. You blip right.
Yes, this is 1.25. Okay, Allie sees one bloop comment and she's like, yeah, bloop it. Then we're going to be stuck at like normal speed. And this guy speaks at a very slow word. I mean, I vote, dude, you know, I crush slow motion talking. I'm voting. I might turn it into oligarchy right here because I think y'all are making a terrible mistake if we bloop to the end, because then this guy, we have to listen. There's two problems with that. One, no more blooping, and we have to listen to him at regular speed.
Tell us a story while we're on pause, then bloop the shit out of this.
Oh,
that's
boy.
What Melissa from Montana says.
Hey.
Blood tube will dictate what the Roche machine will test.
Wow.
So based on the barcode label, once it's on our machine, it knows what test to do, and it will perform an alcohol test.
And Dr. Ford, our stenographer, do you know how to spell that Roche Cobas machine that you were just referencing?
Oh, R-O-C-H-E, Roche, and Cobas, C-O-B-A-S.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
1.5 bloop. He's approaching.
Oh my God, Allie. We're gonna
Just
run
with
out
your-
of blooping.
With your arrow. With your arrow.
I understand. It's a 5-second bloop.
Do you recognize those records, sir?
Yes.
10 seconds.
And what do you recognize those?
10 valuable seconds right there.
These are the medical records of Karen Reed.
And sir, is there an indication within those records as far as the date of treatment for Ms. Reed?
Yes, there's a bunch of dates in here.
As far as the treatment is concerned, sir?
Yes.
And what is the date of treatment?
Oh, 1/9/22.
Sorry, is that 29/22?
Objection leading.
That's what it says on this.
Yes, science.
You've got your glasses are on your head.
Admit date, it says 1/29/22.
You got your cheaters right
No
on
one
your
can,
head, dude.
no one
Let's
can
go.
hear you when you're down like that.
Doctor, if I could direct your attention further into the document to a previously tabbed portion, do you see any
Until the
indication in there
glasses
as
are
far
off
as
to read.
a result for alcohol testing?
Oh my God. Look at this guy. I mean,
needs
pick
to-
the paper up and hold it closer to your face. See, I wanted to ask Brooklyn, like, is every forensic pathologist on the planet exactly like this?
Yes, I do.
And with respect to that result, have you reviewed these records prior to today?
Yes, I did.
And if you could explain to the jury sort of the timeline from this blood sample as far as, let's start with first when it was ordered.
So when it was ordered, it was 9:03 in the morning.
And when was it taken, sir?
The blood test was taken
There's
5
our boy.
minutes later, so 9:08.
And then what happened, or what is the next time?
I'd like everybody to
Hey.
welcome our dear, dear friend, brilliant lawyer, and on the side comedian, Josh Schiffer. What's up, buddy?
I've been watching for the last 30 minutes, being like, this 1.25 is too slow because this guy is just putting everybody to sleep.
I know, man. I'm telling you,
Josh,
we're
am
not,
I missing something where there was some allegation that a cotton swab wasn't used or alcohol wasn't used or
Really, this is stuff that, you were talking about, generally we can stipulate to a lot of this stuff and make it more efficient. So I'm wondering, really, was this just time fuckery? That's really kind of what it looks like. Is we got this wacky Friday where nobody really knew what was going to happen. I'm sure the jury went home yesterday and was like, why are we going home, or what's going on? Respect our time.
right. Right. Well, I mean, Allie brought up the point that they're maybe in the first trial they might have stipulated to this. So I certainly don't remember this, and in this trial they're not stipulating to jack shit. So
I think that's probably true. That the stipulation, handshake, friendliness is just gone. You guys know, even when you're really fighting knife to knife, you can at least, let's do something for everybody to make this faster, smoother. But nope, not going to happen.
No greater good shit anymore, man.
Yeah, well, and I think that fits into this whole sub-arc story of the only reason we are here is because of the state. This prosecution, according to the defense, is absolutely unjustified because it's overcharged. We've given them what really happened, all that defense stuff that underlies any story. And so by forcing the state to jump through every single hoop, you can kind of reinforce that look at all this that the state's doing just to pin this defendant. What is it with this defendant? Why is this case going to trial when look at how reasonable we are? Look at all this stuff we've pointed out to the Commonwealth. We've been litigating this forever.
And it's one of those things where, when you kind of look at this case, and I was talking about this yesterday, I think it might have been after you jumped off. These are very common where you have alcohol, vehicle, and a pedestrian strike. These are super common cases. Yep. But this thing has just, because of what you were just talking about, has turned into something completely different.
And when we go to somebody, and this is one of the things I teach a lot of my lawyer students, is this concept of reframing the case. There's whatever happened. Josh beat up Bob. There's that fact. But really, is that the story? No. That story is short. Josh and Bob had a physical altercation. Reframing that case into, no, This is a state or a government agency that is putting specific scrutiny that's unnecessary on this interaction for some unknown reason, and we're weighing on them with the entire. You change that frame, and it's
100%.
no longer a case about what happened in the fight between Bob and Josh. You
Right.
want the jury to think about, why is the state doing this to people? Why is this the level of government? Is this the kind of interaction that you, as a juror, would want?
Or
Because
is it
there's the
American
fears that
football?
exist in every juror's head.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
is this the level of the government coming after us that we want? I mean, like, could you imagine the resources that would be spent if they were? That's the way that you like that's really the best way to articulate to people how hard they've come after Karen Reed in this, and it's by how much money they have spent. What happened to
Right,
Josh?
and Mandy's trying to fix it so that he's on our side, because so just stand tight. We're not taking you away, Josh. but
No.
we're not-
I totally get that, and I know I'm still getting hurt. But Bob, you're talking exactly what we need people to understand. When you put the rose-colored glasses on of someone that's worked in the criminal justice system, you don't just see it as a case, because man, cases, it's a piece of paper and a body and some allegations. That can represent a really small amount of resources, or it can represent just an unlimited well where it just never stops. If the state or the government wants to pour assets into a prosecutor, man, there's no budget guy in the back, at least until you get way far down the line. Heck, the local they never even talk about the money or assets and resources. No, it's a case to go prosecute.
Yep.
Hopefully you can do it efficiently. Then you get to a case like this, and you see it and can compare it with other efforts from the same prosecuting organization. That allows you to insert why is this one special?
Dude, let me pose this question to you. What if they get another mistrial?
Oh,
I mean, do they finally start having the money conversation at that point?
I think we might have talked about this on a podcast or something where, all right, one of the most aggressive, crappy things that happens in any case, and it's why judges as well as the litigants are prepared for it, is the worry about a trial getting broken. And sometimes different parties at different times want trials to break, and other times they're trying to protect the integrity of that trial.
She fixed it. So
right now,
go ahead. Sorry, no,
right now, Judge Cannone wants to protect this trial, but does the defense want to protect it, or do they want resolution? Does the Commonwealth want to protect it or have resolution? Is someone going to potentially break a trial intentionally or not? It happens, and then you get exactly into how many times are we going to try this one case?
Yeah.
When does the fiduciary role of the court go, all right, I'm a judge. What's happening here isn't just. It's not responsible or reasonable for whatever happening to happen. Judges do have a lot of power to squeeze litigants using their discretion. And it gets really ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, I just don't know if there's another mistrial, if they cannot reach it. This just might be a case wherein you're never going to get a resolution. I mean, and there's cases that exist in this world that are that.
Too hard to try.
Right.
Too big. And then we get into the discussions about federal versus state, different state and local processes. One of the complaints that I've heard from so many lawyers about this particular case and a couple others is how this would never happen in my jurisdiction. Now, I can't tell you how this exists, but in Georgia, we tend to be really efficiently driven by prosecutions. And we don't get necessarily some of the free reign to play in the sandbox that these litigants have. And I don't know a federal court in the nation that would have put up with 20% of these shit. No, man, federal court, they walk in like, all right, here's your jury. No. Voir dire, you get like 10 minutes. Make sure they don't have 9 heads. All right, all your evidence, we already ruled on all that.
Right.
You guys ready? Because we can just, and it's why federal trials are the Super Bowl. because it's as hard for the government as it is for the defense, even though the government has outrageous powers and disincentives and abilities when talking about a criminal prosecution in federal court. Federal court.
Unbelievable.
She's so buried in federal court on this case because they would literally be like, well, you can take the plea that we think is terribly unfair, but we're going to offer it to you, or you can risk going to prison for the rest of your life in an unfair system that's going to break you. Like, that's federal.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Patty Riddle's comment here, because she says, it is said that a forensic draw for the blood alcohol, they use iodine instead of alcohol because the alcohol swab can foul up the test, and that's why they're doing this. So I just didn't know that allegation had ever been.
That's the first I'm hearing about that. And again, every time it's like reading a book. You read it the first time, man, that was a great book. You read it the second time, oh my God, I didn't even understand that was part of the plot too.
Right.
Third time you read the book, you might really be getting into some sub stuff that it gets deep, y'all. Like, it just does. And that's when you're retrying this case. Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't make a big deal about the potential the contamination of the blood sample during the blood draw by the phlebotomist because the phlebotomist wasn't a proper. Man, state has the burden. Defense has a job. Zealously defend. Pick apart. If you discover new stuff, grab it, run with it, go for it. You don't have an obligation to make sure if you're a defense attorney that it's 100% accurate. No. Your job is to go out there and mention, show, illustrate all of the different things that the state might have missed. And if the state can't keep their blood testing, transporting evidence straight, and that's a them problem. And I don't feel awesome about being convicted on evidence that may not be, it may not have the integrity to be trusted.
And I was going to say, before we put up Miss Parkinson's, the house,
Miss Parks
is in the house.
Wow.
Comment that I agreed with what you very first said, and what she says here is Lally is killing time.
Yep.
We'll be curious who the next witness is. Will there be time for cross on as they are burning time? So, and that was your point. And yes, to the point, even if there is, a lack of, like, they're not stipulating to these records, so he needed to get put on, they're going into way more detail. This is time killing detail, as
time sucking.
Said.
Yeah, total kids. I coach mock trial. They all know what time sucking is. They all know the importance of managing the clock. It's one of the times that that practicing law and sports really overlap is clock control. You don't want a verdict decision to be going on a Tuesday night versus a Friday night. You don't want a juror leaving with the last thing on their brain being this piece of evidence versus that piece of evidence. Primacy, recency, whatever you're leaving them, all that fits into the overall strategy. And for all we know, and I think the comment is correct, I see this as the state got told, hey, you're going to keep going with this case on Friday. It's not going to be what we talked about. There's a risk if they get into a witness that they can't finish. That's a big one. There's a risk if they get partway through a witness and the defense then gets to control the clock. Because remember, if you're the state, this is your part of the case. You get to decide who's getting called next within reason. So if you want to make sure you carry the weekend as the person on the floor, that's going to moderate how you ask these questions. You might have to go into a little bit more detail to get you to the lunch break.
All right, so here's the deal, Josh.
The 10-second clock is starting for Mandy.
So because Justice Kid is here, we have this sound effect that's very controversial. It's a cat. We want to see what we want to see live what Justice Kitty's reaction is.
Get your butt. She is now like, oh, it's my time. Justice Kitty.
All right, 10, 9, 8. Somebody turn down your volume, guys. Go for it.
You hear that? You hear that? Now she is looking at me like I've grown 9 heads. I will have to get some taping of her. We can turn that into some ringtone action.
All right,
throw some Daryl Brooks on it too.
I'm
telling
putting a formal request in that you actually do that.
Yeah, no,
So-
I will now have to collect some audio over
right.
the weekend. She's generally pretty loud.
All right, so here I think we've eaten up some time. I'm going to do
Clock control. See, that's literally it.
I know.
Hey, jurors, I don't want you sitting bored talking amongst yourselves, going over what you just heard that you might not understand. Because hold on, we're lawyers and witnesses, and we're trying to lead you in a specific direction. Remember, that's one of the things jurors have. Hold on, you're getting sold.
Oh yeah.
Anybody ever been to or heard about these timeshares?
Yeah. Hard sell.
Hey, for $25, you get to sit for 8 hours, have crappy lunch, sit in a private room. No, you can't leave. Not if you want that $25 or go to jail.
$25.
You're being sold. This is the way a lot of cynicism exists by someone from the government and someone for the alleged crook.
Right.
It gets real deep when you get into them. So yeah. So what are we looking like for scheduling?
Go for it, babe.
So basically, like it's a half day today. So this thing's because they went and did the jury view this morning. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And then this guy's the first guy they put on. I don't know. I'm assuming that she's incorporating the jury view time as part of that half day. So I think when she decides to break for lunch, that's it.
That would make a lot of sense to me, that if she told the jury half day and they did the site visit this morning, which apparently went off. I haven't seen any crazy, oh my God, there were people, buffer zone, because that buffer zone thing's still getting litigated. Randazza has a whole bunch of stuff, which, by the way, love him or hate him, he's fighting for you. He just has quite a position in the world. And he uses some hyperbole that is mint. It takes a special lawyer to go have some of those fights. But I think that you're right that she included that as part of the half day and let the jurors know, hey, the afternoon, you'll be able to go out and do some of your errands that you would normally do. We're going to be here in court. I don't think she's going to release all the lawyers. I think she's going to have people sit around this afternoon to clear up loose ends, have any arguments. There's got to be some outstanding stuff.
I don't know if there are, man. Like they had like the couple of motions eliminated that were still pending in terms of decisions, like with the clip thing before they start. But I mean, you're right. If there is anything that's out there, because the ARCA voir dire is happening Monday. There's not going to be any witnesses Monday. It's all so that's going to be another half day on Monday. And I don't know what else there is, but you know how it is. I mean, shit could have been
let's hear
filed
what
overnight.
this guy.
So here's the $1 million question that I'm going to pose. So if this witness is still in the middle of his examination, but Lally finishes, and that Lally is actually conducting this direct.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the end of the day before Hank Brennan, with a witness on the stand, play another clip to leave it into the jurors' minds?
You can't do that.
That's what I would think.
Come on, Al. You know that can't is just a suggestion in so much court. You're not supposed to ask leading questions or lots of objectionable things. Right. And it was the one thing Lori Vallow did great in her close. She just talked. She was like, I don't care that I'm not allowed to say this. I'm still going to say it. Which really, lawyers do that all the time. When you see people say things, and you're like, that's objection. The lawyer generally knew what they were doing. It's hard to put that toothpaste back in the tube. If I'm Brennan, that clip certainly, or that clip technique strategy, clearly intentional. I think that it goes into the fundamental repeat. You just hear it enough times and that becomes a truth for this case. Right. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he finds some way to bring it up. And
not if this guy is not off the stand.
I'm just
I'll be shocked.
I'll be shocked too, but not.
Yeah. All right, let's
all right, let's check it out. Let's see. So I pushed them up to 1.5. So it should be a little speedier.
And you might find times to just bloop 10 seconds too.
There's nothing of any significance happened with
it. 5 minutes from that, 9:13, we received it, and 9:53 in the morning, the result was entered into the computer. So it was ordered at 9:03, and I believe it was 9:53. The results were in the computer.
And may I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes. Bloop. Bloop.
I'm about to seek to introduce
What?
the next exhibit.
He approached.
Any objections, Little?
Oh my God. You're going to eat up our blooping time.
God, it's so
Doctor, what was
moist.
the result of the testing for alcohol in the defendant's blood when it was taken shortly after 9 a.m. on January 29th?
Finally.
93 milligrams per deciliter.
Thanks. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, now you can put it back down to 1.5. 25. Whatever it's called, 1.25. Because the cross will be a little more interesting, if anything.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fowler.
Oh, good afternoon.
The Good Samaritan lab is a clinical lab, not a forensic lab. Is that right?
Correct.
And hospitals are not in the legal business of calculating an individual's blood alcohol concentration. Is that right?
I would say 99.9% of the time we are not in the legal business. We are testing alcohol for the diagnosis of alcohol intoxication. But occasionally a case may come, very rare, to a hospital, and it ends up being a legal case. It's not common, I think uncommon.
You'd agree that there are differences between screening tests that are conducted at hospitals and forensic tests that are conducted by law enforcement, right?
Yes.
The purpose of testing in a clinical setting is to assist in the diagnosis and treatment of a patient, right?
Correct.
And physicians
She's
need to
a
analyze
very
blood
happy
quickly, they need
examiner.
to get the results so they can see what's in the patient's system, and then effectively and efficiently treat that patient.
She's just so happy.
Whereas in a forensic setting, tests for blood alcohol concentration are designed to produce results that are reliable and credible for use in court. Correct?
Correct.
You testified earlier today that your lab is accredited by CAP, which is the College of American Pathologists. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, I do.
But CAP is a clinical laboratory accreditation, not a forensic accreditation, right?
We don't have the forensic accreditation for Good Samaritan.
In fact, Good Samaritan has never been investigated or accredited by any forensic accreditation team to ensure that you perform all of your tests with the integrity necessary to support results in court, right?
We've never been
Saying right or correct. It's annoying.
accreditation, but we have very good quality lab results, which I could go into further.
But you've never been accredited by a forensic accreditation team, right?
No.
And the lab at Good Samaritan has never been accredited by the ANSI, which is the National Accreditation Board known as ANAB. Are you familiar with that organization?
No.
Are you aware that ANAB is the forensic accreditation body that in the United States that ensures that laboratories' procedures meet the minimum standards necessary to ensure results are reliable and credible for use in court?
Sustained.
He doesn't know about
the
it.
most reliable method of forensic ethanol testing is called headspace gas chromatography, or HSGC. Are you familiar with that process?
Yes.
And HSGC is the method that's used by forensic labs to test for blood alcohol content, right?
He got the lecture before period.
And that's because forensic tests require the testing of whole blood for the presence of alcohol, right?
Correct.
Can you briefly, just for the jury, describe sort of the difference between a whole blood test and a serum test?
Sure. So whole blood, to put it simply, when you have your blood drawn, you see the fluid coming out all red. That's whole blood. We don't do anything to it. We don't spin it down. We don't centrifuge it. That is whole blood. That is the specimen of choice for forensic blood ethanol testing. Hospitals, on the other hand, our methodology, which is just as good as the forensic headspace gas chromatography, is based on looking at the serum or the plasma. So we don't, that's what when I explained that we need to centrifuge it, take the liquid portion off the top. So in the hospital, we test it on the serum or the plasma. Now, did you ask me the difference? You want me to go into the difference?
That's enough, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll ask some additional questions
Okay.
to kind of clarify. In a forensic lab, they actually require the testing of whole blood, correct?
Correct.
And HSGC directly measures ethanol in the blood.
Correct.
And this method is designed to be accurate and reliable for forensic purposes for use in legal proceedings, correct?
Correct.
But But the testing in
this
this
is very
case was
typical
performed
for
using the hospital's
DUI
clinical
cases,
chemistry machine
people, like,
instead of a
anytime
forensically
there's a
defensible
blood
method.
test DUI, these blood test procedures, the phlebotomy is what we started calling them when cops were allowed to pull blood. There's all kinds of stuff with this collection that in the DUI context has been litigated to the end of the earth. Like, that, what color cap did you have on the vial? Well, some of them are airtight. Some of them allow, oh, puppy. Some of them are airtight, which means the gas, alcohol is effervescent and evaporates into the atmosphere. So you need to have it sealed. If it's not sealed, then the alcohol evaporates out of the blood along with some other blood gas. And it gets really technical and complicated and super friggin' boring. And there are people that spend their entire lives just testifying about blood science for just DUI cases. And by getting into this, it's kind of like tacking on an appellate backpack now. And that may explain why they didn't stipulate to squat. Because they're like, all right, we're really going to do this. Let's preserve our ability to pick at every potential pathway that includes the science of the blood collection. Because I don't know about in your state. I know in Georgia, we argue about it at least once a year. And then we pass a new law because everybody's got to keep making money, and DUI is a giant moneymaker. Sorry, Lyft and Uber have put them states out of business. In some places because DUI money has gone down that much. So this whole DUI industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, is contracting, and they need to put this science to work somewhere.
Right. And this would be a lot more compelling or effective if Karen Reed hadn't gone on and said she had double shots 3 times and then, I was buzzed.
The muzzle, man, teaching moment, every lawyer ever. Do not talk out of court. Come on. You ain't adding to the conversation. There's nothing you can say that will add to the conversation. What is the guiltiest person in the world scream? I'm innocent. Shut up. Enough.
100. All right, let's keep rolling.
Like HSGC, right?
Correct.
And that clinical chemistry machine performs what you just testified to, a serum test, right?
Serum or plasma.
Serum or plasma. And hospitals use serum or plasma testing because it's actually quicker and more efficient than HSGC, right?
Yes, it's less labor intensive. It's easy to automate, but at the same time, very, very good and very accurate.
But serum testing does not actually measure alcohol directly. It instead measures the presence of what's called NADH, right? Yes, I'll repeat that. That was my fault. Serum testing does not actually measure alcohol directly. Instead, it measures the presence of NADH. Is that right?
Almost.
Well, NADH is a byproduct of alcohol, right?
Correct. I can go into the testing how methodology that we use to explain it if you want me to.
Well, serum testing measures the presence of NADH, correct?
It measures the rate of change of NADH production, so it doesn't actually look at just NADH, and it measures the rate of production, and I can go into more detail on that. Alcohol testing in the lab is correct.
I'll ask you some additional questions
sure.
about NADH, and we'll get there.
Yep.
So you can do this now, but let the doctor answer his question fully. Next question, okay? And the following questions.
Doctor, the higher the NADH in a patient's system, the higher the serum test result, correct?
That may not be correct, no. It's the rate of change of NADH production based on our methodology. I can go into that. So our test system is a little bit different than the forensic testing system, but it's also very good and very accurate, and almost when we compare our methodology to the headspace, we get the exact same results, and when we compare and with peer laboratory comparisons. But what we do is and I think the jury needs to know this, maybe some of you might understand the chemistry behind it, but we do, we take the patient's sample, and it's based on, we add, because when there's alcohol in the specimen, we add, actually, in the test system, alcohol dehydrogenase. It's the same enzyme that's in the patient's body. In addition, we add a surplus of NAD to it. So NAD is similar to NADH. They get converted back and forth. So when we put it on our test system, it's alcohol dehydrogenase is in there. And what happens is when there's alcohol, it combines with NAD that we add to it. It creates NADH. And then in our machine, there's a spectrophotometer, which can monitor the rate of NADH production over baseline. And we use, there's a something that measures, a photometer that measures the NADH production. It looks at light in this physics and looks at 340 nanometers. And it's pretty accurate. It will monitor, it will tell you, it will tell the system how much NADH is produced. And that amount is directly proportional to the alcohol in the patient sample. So it's a very, very accurate test, but there are some limitations that I can go into.
So wait for another question.
Boring.
Next question, Ms. Little.
Yes, so serum testing can be subject to errors, right? And there are limitations.
There are some limitations that I can explain, just like head-space gas chromatography may have some limitations too, but I can go into them.
Yeah, next question.
What are some of the limitations of the serum testing?
Okay, so the serum test, as with many tests in the laboratory, different things can interfere with our laboratory tests, and the three most common ones, which are unlikely to affect ethanol testing, is we abbreviated HIL. We want to look at those three things. One is hemolysis, which is H, and the other one is I, icterus, which is high bilirubin, and the third is L for lipids. High lipids will interfere with alcohol testing or with any testing based on that same methodology. Our machine, the Rose-Kobash machine, and all the machines out in the market today are very sophisticated. If we have elevated levels of any H or I or L, it will flag it and raise the potential for a problem. The next thing on the list is that our alcohol testing is not absolutely specific for ethanol. The two possible other alcohols that can cross-react, one is propanol and butanol. But then it goes clinical history to the patient and just those two alcohols. And third is there's some unusual hematologic malignancies like Waldenstrom's macroglobulinemia that can interfere.
He had to take a call.
Always have to. The next one, sometimes there can be patients who make endogenous make their own alcohol. So very rarely, some patients may truly have a positive result. That could be from our test or headspace. They make their own, so we have to rule that out.
Discount ham.
It's a rare condition.
Because
and
on
the next one is
all the ham goes on sale, and man, you can get a $40, $50 ham for like $15. So we're gonna have a lot of ham in my life.
All right.
And
I
I
hope
like
this guy starts telling us what he.
Yeah.
I actually saw your post about your ham score.
Discount ham.
on that.
So my significant other, who's a wonderful, successful lawyer who works for the state, like she does very, very well, is the inveterate value shop. Like if she's wearing a suit, almost guaranteed it's from Goodwill. Like that, she just, and I'm like, you should not, but that's her hobby. Her hobby is being thrifty. I'm like, all right.
Go for it.
That's what you want, man. But yeah, I love it. She will find some discount meat.
Leaves the extra money for your glasses.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I occasionally buy some dumb things. I own Truett Cathy's 1981 Lincoln Continental Mark VI Bill Blast Custom Edition, which is the single dumbest car in America. And I occasionally buy other dumb things. So that's my way of supporting the economy.
Hey, what's up, Vinny? Our boy Vinny Politan's in here. He says, hey, Josh,
Oh.
I want your bedazzled jacket.
I can go get the jacket.
Bedazzled jacket.
He won't let me wear on his show. Like, really, like, because there's a bit. It's never from Vinny. It's the producers see it and go, Josh, just no.
Oh, you know Vinny would allow it.
Oh, Vinny would allow it. Are you kidding? People, 100%. You got to understand. And I've told Vinny about this. There would be an entire other show of here's what's not on camera at Court TV. The most entertaining and interesting. Like the hosts watch so much trial. Like, it's unbelievable the collective knowledge. Vinny has been doing this for what, 20 something years. You mentioned somebody's like, oh, yeah, no, I had him on the show. Yep, knew him. Yep, I can call. People are like, oh, how do I get to be a guest on Vin? Man, Vinny knows everybody. Vinny can get any guest he wants in the legal universe. He literally could call 98% of the bar and go, hey, I got a block. You want to come in? And people be like, yep, absolutely.
Dude, when I get the Vinny calls, like when his main booker will hit me up, and it's typically the day of, and I'll have all kinds of shit going on. I always
just blow smoke up Vinny's ass panel.
Well, you know, he knows true crime better than anybody because he's really been there. Like, true crime started OJ time. Like, before OJ, it was, you might hear about a big case if it was in your community or national and you read the paper. It occasionally made the news and there was a conviction today, but there wasn't a discussion. OJ is when that discussion started happening. And that's when Vinny and crew kind of put together what is now the true crime universe. He was there at the first floor. And so when you talk about how the industry and the coverage has evolved to what it is now, and it's growing, he really can see some of those trends about what people are interested in from a unique perspective.
I was just in jest,
awesome.
Vinny. Your blow smoke up Vinny's ass segment. I'm fine with that.
Hell yeah.
You deserve
Hell
it.
yeah. But I'll tell you, his perspective on how the media affects cases now, it's really interesting, because
it's fascinating, man.
And he's responsible for it too.
One of my mentors, Jerry Spence, wrote a whole book 20 years ago about the impact of media, crime, society, because at the time there were some really shrill voices, and there still are some really shrill voices. But how that affects, and come on, what's a better example than Karen Reed? Right. 20, 30 years ago, Karen Reed case, if the local press didn't want to cover that for whatever reason, it was never getting covered. You can
That's what I'm saying. Like, by Court TV and, you know, showing like, wow, people love this content. Now we've got so many more facets of media.
Well, yeah, I mean, the social media aspect of it is like, it cannot be ignored.
And it's educational and engaging, which really go to our founding principles. You want an engaged population.
100%.
The more people that are engaged, right or wrong, the better, you know, society. Oh, man, people just be cruel. The better that society works, because we're having that discussion. The apathy is where we fail, and that's juries. We want juries that actually represent the community. When you get jury members, there are communities in Georgia. We have 159 counties. There are counties that have horrific jury engagement rates, and that literally threatens law and order. That threatens justice. If you can't get an honest jury pool, trials don't matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question for me becomes, social media is not going away. YouTube's not going away. Court TV is not going away. Coverage of these cases, because we're all fascinated by the human condition, is never going away. There's always going to be people that are going to engage with this content forever and ever and ever. And the question, let me finish. The question becomes, in light of that fact, in light of the fact that it is not going anywhere, how do we counteract it? And you know, because in my estimation, my thought has been, all right, because the two cases where you've really seen kind of the influence of social media in particular into the case itself have been Karen Reed and Richard Allen, the Delphi case. Now, that case was not even streamed. If that case had been streamed, but what you saw in those two cases was two defense teams lay out their entire theory of the case prior to trial, which you typically don't see, because it's our one ace as defense attorneys that we can hold up our sleeve. We don't have to tell them what our theory of the case is. So when that happened, you saw people actually take sides. But in my thought was, if we can't get rid of the social media and there's no way to really kind of address it, does that actually even the scales of justice leading into a trial? Would you rather have both sides coming in with some knowledge about the case, or would you rather keep it how it's always been, where it's always the government that gets their theory out there ahead of time?
I'm going to push back on you from coming from the top-down position with that. The jury is the key. The jury and what their knowledge is the basis for everything, because juries and democracy is self-proving. If this is what the people say and it's the majority or the specifically large enough majority unanimity, then that's truth.
Right. It's almost worthless that you've got the rest of the world out there pounding on the door saying, so that's why I'm always like, I'll still hold an A. If I can get an ace, and it's hard to have an ace up your sleeve, but if there's something I don't have to let out there, I'm not going to. But I get Bob's point that in sometimes it can be helpful. But before we lose Vinny, I just want to say, because somebody asked this, I think it was last live stream, they asked, Bob, can you convince Vinny to stand on his head and scream, Karen is innocent? And I'm assuming that came from something Vinny must have said at some point. But
the only way that Vinny will do that is if Vinny thinks that Karen is innocent. So
and here's the way that I so often, when people ask me to talk about what is Vinny's perspective, Vinny has seen justice work and Vinny has seen justice fail. Yeah. And he's got some cynicism about how this system can be manipulated for good and bad. And remember, good and bad is a perspective value judgment. What's good for one is bad for another. Like it's there's not a universalness there. Vinny's seen the system work and fail. And the reason I think so many people attached him, he can cut through and talk about the common sense sometimes, because he realizes, guess what? In Karen Reed, the state's terrible. It embarrasses him and other people that have worked for the state and prosecution, because they want prosecutions that are good. And for him to see a Proctor or some of the just indescribable, are you kidding me moments that state prosecutions have in Reed, elsewhere, all over, he gets very frustrated when justice doesn't get delivered because of some incompetence or bad work from the agencies. He holds the government to a high standard because we're paying.
Vinny, if you want to get on here and speak for yourself, I'm happy to substitute out and let this bromance go.
The thing about Vinny, though, is that he's always intellectually honest.
Yeah, well, and I disagree with him on tons of stuff. Like, I'm decidedly more defense-oriented.
We both are.
Vinny has no problem locking people up for stuff that I'm like, no, you don't lock people. He goes, no, we lock people up for that. But and the impact of social media, it's not a good or a bad, because you're right. It's there. It's going to be there forever. It's just a larger evolution of the original town crier and town square. And the coffee clutches in our wigwams 3,000 years ago. It's just now got a different platform. It weighs voices differently. It allows some voices to be amplified, even when they're wrong, but it also allows the smarter voices to very often rise to the top. And that's what I think good broadcasting is, and content creation is trying to get the best voices that have firm intellectual positions to discuss them. That's what I think viewers really like, more than the I'm going to tell you what to think broadcasting that is unfortunately popular in part of the media. I don't like the lecture you to tell you what you should believe, because that's either picking sides and either antagonizing your audience or engaging your audience in a way that's self-serving and kind of lame.
Vinny is the anchor over there for a reason. You know what I mean?
All right, and that brings a close.
And I think he might have dipped.
Blow up Vinny's, smoke up Vinny's ass segment.
Is one that's in the literature, which is LDH and lactic acid. If a patient has a markedly elevated LDH or lactic acid, those one is an enzyme, and the other one is an acid, that can cause false positives. Now,
if I can stop you there, doctor. I think those were the four that you identified, the four limitations: the lactic acid, the
Yeah.
If I could just
Go
ask you
ahead
a
and
few
ask your
more-
next question.
If I could ask you a few more questions about
Right.
LDH and lactic acid.
Let her
Sure.
have
You're aware,
control.
Dr. Fowler, of the medical literature establishing that the presence of LDH and lactic acid can lead to falsely elevated serum readings, correct?
Correct.
And that's because lactic acid or LDH actually forms in ADH.
Lactic acid, I'll have to go into a little bit of chemistry. Lactic acid and LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, they both act on each other. And LDH and lactic acid needs NAD plus to break it down. So in theory, when you're testing a serum, a plasma for blood alcohol, if there's extra LDH or high levels of LDH, high levels of lactic acid, you add it to the test system, and then Roche throws in, or Siemens throws in the NAD, it will form NADH. That was first documented, I think, back in the older versions of these ethanol testings back in the 1990s, when they stumbled on looking for
this guy.
biomarkers or reasons in kids with SIDS, little babies. And they found that two of these babies had a positive alcohol. But
Doctor, if I could just ask the next question, if that's okay. So in other words, NADH, studies have found, can actually be formed by certain biomechanical processes other than the presence of alcohol, right?
Yes.
Are you aware that the National Institute of Health has found that liver diseases, kidney diseases, muscle injury, trauma, and even anemia are some of the health conditions that can lead to a rise in serum LDH levels?
Yes.
Are you aware that Ms. Reed was severely anemic in January of 2022?
Sustained.
Are you aware that the medical literature has also found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a twofold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
Hey, pause for just 1 second for the practice.
Yeah.
If you ask a question and the objection is sustained, take a minute and process that. If you just keep going, it's proving that you're not listening to anything yourself as the inquisitor.
She could have changed her question. Do you know whether or not?
Yeah.
Karen
And
Reed
that-
was anemic?
Tailor the question, because you're right. Like, if you're just plowing through a script without regard to what the witness is saying, it's exactly what you said, Josh. I mean, the jury is going to be aware of that. They're going to know that you're just plowing through a script. I mean, you want to cross to be as fluid as possible. I try my very best. You know, I'll have bullet points, but I'm shooting from the hip to the extent where I'm not sitting there reading ever.
And it's not that you're disagreeing. Like, no, you just have to show that you're listening.
Right.
Like, but you have to give them that respect, because if you don't listen to whatever the answer is, the jury goes, well, they're not going to listen to other people. They're closed off.
So
and you can disagree. You don't have to respond to the witness, but you got to listen to it.
Right. And let me just explain. I'm assuming, because of course, as we know, they just say objection, that it was assumes facts not in evidence. She said, did you know that she did have anemia at this point in time? If she would have, as Josh has suggested, listened, paused, and thought, she could have changed the question. Do you know whether or not Miss Reed was anemic at that time, to at least get the point across that he doesn't know, you know, one way or another. Obviously, if the answer would have been yes, then I'm going to assume that she just completely dropped the ball there. If he actually did, because he ran her blood, know she was anemic, then she obviously should have come back to that.
And Allie's showing exactly how, even if you're going to get objected to, you get that issue out there.
Right.
You're not going to get the answer you want. Like, you don't inquire for, oh, you're going to give me what I'm at. No. They're going to object, but just like Allie said, you can ask that question 5 different ways and keep drawing objections. And by the time you're done losing all 5 objections, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Because you can't unring a bell.
Exactly. But Josh, if she would have asked, did you know whether or not, I don't think that would have been objectionable.
Or did you inquire? There's so many other ways of continuing on that point and getting beyond a pretty easy objection for the other side. You saw how quickly they did it. It was reflexive. It's not a hard one. Assumes facts not in evidence is kind of like the relevance. In Georgia, we all relevant because it makes the discussion have to happen.
Right. And if she kept the questions, like you're saying, different ways, did you even ask her? Did you do it? And she kept it limited to, because she gave 4 examples.
Yeah.
And if she kept them all limited to just anemia, that would have triggered.
Would
to
it
the
have been
jury.
important?
Right.
Would it have helped you in your diagnosis to know about blood conditions such as anemia? You can rephrase that to get away from the facts not in evidence. And for folks' question, it means no one's testified that Karen had anemia.
Right. But at the
we
end
all
of
may
the day,
know it. It may come out later, whatever. And the witness may know it, but it's not been introduced yet.
Right.
So it's getting him to discuss that. It's putting that little pin in everybody's brain at that moment. Oh, there was an anemia issue. Oh, I'm not supposed to pay attention to that. Good luck.
But I heard it 7 times.
All
And
right,
I just going to say, last
I
thing.
grouped it back a little bit.
Okay. And then last thing, none of this really matters all that much, I think, my opinion, because of Karen Reed's own statements. So,
and the video. I mean, like, it's like you have the video and then she's got the statements describing exactly what was in the video.
And so the question is that should she have just leaned in on it more and been like, yup, I was ripped up.
Right,
like,
so
if there's a benefit to that.
With the knowingly left him there if she didn't know because she was so drunk.
Right.
I was schnocked.
But like the problem with it is going to be the fact that she's also got an extrajudicial statement out there that she watched Sean walk into the house.
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways. All right, let's roll.
Multiple sclerosis have a 2-fold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls.
I'm going to allow that.
I haven't read anything specifically related to the NADH level, but but I want to go back to the point where our laboratory, our testing is not based.
Let him finish his answer.
It's not. It's the rate of change of NADH. So if somebody has NADH on board, I believe it's not going to affect the result. It's the rate of change, and it basically, back to the anemia. I haven't read or heard of that.
That was stricken. That was not allowed.
All right. So here's the problem with Eliza Little asking what are essentially direct examination questions. She's leaving the ability for the doctor to give open-ended answers. She's like, these are like those questions right there aren't your prototypical cross-examination questions where you can really limit what the witness is going to get into. When she leaves it open like that, that's why Cannoni's allowing him to just, continue to pontificate.
Their relations, not necessarily in this case, where this happens all the time, where everybody's like, yeah, no, just go let them narrative on. Let's make this efficient, because it shows trust and confidence at that point. Remember, every time you're picking at a witness, there's a trust confidence discussion happening with the other lawyer.
Right.
If the other lawyer is confident and trusting of their witness to just sit back and be like, nope, doesn't matter. That's a tell. It's a communication to the jury. I don't have to be concerned about this.
Right. 100%.
It all goes back to the lactic acid and the LDH. The NADH doesn't matter. So looking at multiple sclerosis patients, they can have elevated LDH and lactic acid, but it's not to the extent that it can interfere with the alcohol levels. There was a study maybe 7-10 years ago.
Your Honor, there's no question pending.
You asked him about a study, if he was aware of the studies.
I asked, and that's a yes or no question. And he's
All right, Doctor, we're going to hold that there for you and ask the next question.
Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD Through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center of Healthy Brain Aging by the University of New South Wales? Which Sure. Doctor, have you reviewed the August 21st, 2013 peer-reviewed article entitled Serum NAD Levels Through Disease Course in Multiple Sclerosis, which was sponsored by the Center for Healthy Brain Aging by the School of Psychiatry at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, which specifically found that patients suffering from multiple sclerosis have a 2-fold increase in NADH levels as compared to controls?
I'll strike the part of what the article held. Is he aware of the article?
No, I'm not, to be honest, no.
Dr. Fowler, did you consider Ms. Reed's anemia and multiple sclerosis condition when you conducted the alcohol test on January 29, 2022?
No, we don't. No.
Because I didn't
And
know
again,
that.
serum tests like the ones conducted in this case don't test for ethanol. They only test for NADH, right?
We test for the rate of change of NADH production.
And Dr. You did a number of other tests on Ms. Reed on January 29, 2022. You tested for additional drugs, not just alcohol, correct?
Correct.
And all of those results were negative.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Objection.
That was all to literally get out that he hasn't read
Doctor, are you
everything.
aware, I know your lab at Good Samaritan did not do this process, but are you aware through your training and experience of any sort of mathematical conversion that can be done from a serum reading in milligrams per
Objection outside of the
deciliter to
scope.
a blood alcohol concentration in whole blood?
I'm going to allow it. The door was open.
Go ahead, sir.
He asked about whole blood.
Yes, I am aware. Yep.
And please describe what you're aware of with reference to that.
Well, with blood alcohol concentrates goes to, when it's in your blood, it goes more to the watery components of your blood. So when I described the process earlier, whole blood is before we spin it. And when we test the plasma, which is specifically testing the watery component. Now, people have done studies like how much percentage of water is a serum versus whole blood. Basically, to put it simple, there's a higher percentage of water in the serum versus whole blood. So a hospital result will always be a little bit higher than a test on whole blood. It can be, I think the ratio, the conversion factor is anywhere from 1.1 to 1.18. So it could be 18% or 11% higher in serum versus whole blood. But we don't do it. That's what I read. I will defer that to the experts.
Now, doctor, you were referencing in your cross-examination about a study that you were aware of about 10 years ago or so regarding MS and alcohol testing. Is that correct?
It was more on MS, looking at the results of lactic acid and LDH to see how high the levels of lactic acid can go in a group of multiple sclerosis patients. When reviewing that, we found that the range went from some normal range, 16% of the multiple sclerosis patients had normal lactic acids, but the remainder had elevated levels. But those levels were not anywhere near the required levels to produce a false positive. Our package inserts and for the Roche testing system, the Roche has, it's an FDA approved test, and they have to do in-depth detailed testing before they allow any hospital to do a test. And they have listed levels of lactic acid beyond which the test would not be reliable. But the results based on this study of 600 multiple sclerosis patients, 2 big centers in Italy and 1 in the Netherlands, show that the highest level of lactic acid in the MS patients did not achieve, didn't get close. Usually patients with MS that are asymptomatic can have normal or low, normal levels, and slightly elevated. It was the ones that had more symptoms that had elevated levels up to, I think the highest was 6.5 millimoles per deciliter, which is not high enough to interfere with our result.
Now, with respect to the lab at Good Samaritan Medical Center, the interference that you were speaking about earlier on cross-examination, what would happen if any of those types of interference were to occur during the course of the testing?
No, I'll allow it.
The 3 main ones, which I detailed earlier, is the hemolysis, icterus, and lipemia. Machines are sophisticated. It will detect it and say, it will flag it and say, please do not result it, or we'll have a disclaimer saying, interpret this result with caution. The results may not be accurate. It hardly ever happens with alcohol testing. But if it did, we would get a result like that, and we probably wouldn't report it.
And from your review of the defendant's medical record, specifically her testing from January 29th, did you notice any interference or any reports like that in her record?
No.
Now, the testing that you're doing at Good Samaritan is in relation to patients such as that might have cancer or heart disease or something like that, correct?
Correct.
Now, you were talking or started to speak on cross-examination about the good quality lab results that you have from your lab, and you wanted to go into that further. Could you please expound upon that for the jury now?
We have, you mentioned proficiency testing before. So all hospital laboratories accredited by the CAP or have to participate in proficiency testing. What that means is that every 3 times a year, and they give us 5 unknown samples. And we have to test it, report it back to CAP, which also reports back to the government. And we have to basically get the correct answers. And with alcohol testing, it's probably one of the best tests in the laboratory. Always have right on the money results. But at the same time, we're also able to look at results of all the other labs that participated in this proficiency testing. So we can look at different methods. You can look at labs that had the same method as us to see how we're doing. And usually with this proficiency testing, we have 3,000 labs across the nation that have the same methodology as us, so we can compare to them. And also, interestingly, we can see the labs that are using headspace gas chromatography. And out of interest, we can see, how do we compare? And we have exactly the same results on these proficiency testings. We also look at some statistics as well, not going into them, but we can look at some stats like standard deviations and SDs. And actually the hospitals with enzymatic testing have slightly better stats with that compared to Headspace. Pretty close, but a little bit better.
And doctor, from your review of the defendant's medical records and the blood testing in this case, was that done in conformity with the policies and protocols at Good Samaritan?
We have policies in place to be followed, and there's no reason not to think that somebody didn't follow policy.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else, Ms. Little?
No questions.
All right, doctor, you are all set, sir. Thank you.
Thank God.
Do you have another witness, Mr. Brennan?
I do.
Okay.
The Commonwealth calls Jason Becker.
Oh, I'm hitting it on my
on your parlay
trial bingo. Yeah. Woo. Look at that. Weed.
And just while we're there, I hate this tiny courtroom. Like, I totally know why. And like, it's just awful. And it has got to be stuffy and gross and like just nasty.
It is.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jason Becker.
How old are you?
I am 36 years old.
Do you live in the area?
I do. I live in Canton.
Tell us a little bit about your education.
My education, high school and college UMass. And I went to EMT school a little over 10 years ago and paramedic school.
Tell me a little bit about EMT school. How old were you when you started EMT school?
When I started EMT school, roughly 21 years old.
Why did you decide to go to EMT school?
I wanted to save some lives.
Tell us a little bit about EMT school. What did it require?
EMT school is a couple months of classroom stuff, and then you do some ride time on the ambulance. Paramedic school is a little different. It's about a little extended, 2 years worth of training.
EMT before you went to paramedics.
I went, correct. So I got on the Canton Fire Department, and they sent me to the fire academy.
Training. Firefighter and a paramedic.
There's 2.
Is there one station that's larger or smaller than the other?
Station 1 is the headquarters, which is larger.
Have you ever spent time in Station 1 as a firefighter or a paramedic?
I have. We rotate through both stations.
I want you to take us back to January 29th, 2022. Were you working that evening?
I was.
What station were you assigned to?
Canton Station 2.
Canton Fire Station 2?
Correct.
And that's the smaller of the 2 stations?
It is.
Were you working with anybody at Fire Station 2 that night?
My ambulance partner at the time was firefighter Dan Whitley.
Was there anybody else who was working at Fire Station 2 in addition to you and Dan Whitley?
Correct. There was an engine company with 3 guys on it.
3 people were assigned to
The engine, correct.
Were you and Dan Whitley assigned as partners for the day, the week?
Correct. Yes, we were.
Which was it, the day or the week, sir?
The week.
So for the entire week, you're partners with a person, and does that rotate on other assignments?
It does. It rotates.
So on this particular week, you were assigned as partners with Dan Whitley?
I was.
What were your roles between the 2 of you?
Well, at the time, he was my preceptor. I was a new paramedic at the time. So I was more or less the lead tech on all the calls as part of my training. and Dan's been a paramedic for a long time, so he was there to teach me.
So would Dan Whitley be the lead on the call, and he would help you?
I would be the lead.
You would be the lead.
Correct.
Did you get a call that early morning hours of January 29, 2022?
We did.
What was the call assigned for?
It was a call for Section 12 psych eval.
Very briefly, can you tell us what a Section 12 is?
Sure. It's a transportation order filled out by police, doctor, basically for us on the ambulance that we have to take the patient, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, because they're a threat to themselves or someone else.
When you received the call for a Section 12, were you aware that there were other calls that Fire Station 1 had responded to that morning?
We were aware. You can hear the calls going out each station.
Were you or Dan Whitley any part of that earlier call that Fire Station 1 responded to before you got the call for the Section 12?
We were not.
So your efforts were after?
We were after, correct.
After you got the call to respond to a Section 12, did you head towards Fairview Road?
We did.
Tell us a little bit about the trip to Fairview Road.
It was a little extended because of the weather conditions at the time. Snowing heavily, windy, low visibility.
Okay. How long did it take to get from Fire Station 2 to Fairview Road?
Approximately 8 to 10 minutes.
Who drove?
Firefighter Whitley.
Now, on the way to Fairview Road, do you sit in the front of the ambulance?
We do.
Take us to when you arrived to Fairview Road. What do you see?
You see a bunch of police lights. Canton engine 3 was already on scene, so we parked behind them.
Did you have it, without talking about what you spoke about, did you have a chance to speak to anybody at the scene?
We briefly spoke to the Canton police, and they briefed us and sent us to where the defendant was at the time.
Why do you have a conversation with other first responders at the scene before you do anything?
Just, they're making sure the scene is safe to begin with, and they're unseen first, so they have a little more info than what our dispatch would have.
After you had that debriefing with colleagues, were you directed to approach any certain person?
I was.
Where did you go?
I went to the defendant who was sitting in a black SUV tech car.
Were there other persons inside the car with the defendant?
From my understanding, it was one person in the driver's seat.
And what seat was the defendant in?
She was in the front passenger seat.
Did you have a chance to speak to her?
I did.
And the person you spoke to who's in the passenger seat of that car, do you see that person in court today?
I do.
Could you point out and describe an article of clothing, please?
Ms. Reed right there, she's in the blue, navy blue.
How long was your conversation with the defendant while she was still seated inside the vehicle?
Approximately 5 to 8 minutes.
At some point, did you and the defendant move to another location?
We did.
Where did you go?
So we went back to the ambulance.
After having a conversation with her, was she cooperative going back to the ambulance with you?
She was.
And did you ask her to be seated in the ambulance?
I did.
Was she cooperative with that as well?
She was.
After she was seated in the ambulance, did you close the doors and get in?
We did.
When you say we, who was with you?
Me and firefighter Whitley.
So you and firefighter Whitley were in the back of the ambulance with Miss Reed. Who was going to drive the ambulance?
Firefighter Sam Park.
Where did he come from?
He was on the fire engine that was already on scene.
I want to ask you questions now about what you did in the back of the ambulance and some of the conversations that you had. Tell us what your role is once you have a patient in the back of the ambulance. What do you do next?
Each patient's different, depends on what the call is for. In this specific situation, it was more a psych eval. That's what we're called for. Initial triage questions: is the patient cooperative, uncooperative, combative? I asked her name, her mental status, where she was. I asked if she was suicidal, and if she was, did she have a plan? Did she want to hurt anyone else? Those are some of the initial triage questions that I would ask.
Why do you ask those questions?
Just to get a kind of a judgment on the patient, reading the patient.
What's your role at that point? Are you an investigator?
I'm not.
Are you in any way law enforcement?
I'm not.
So what's your focus when you're speaking to a patient?
It's basically hearing them speak, hearing their story. In this specific situation, we didn't know circumstances. We just knew that Miss Reed had found her husband, which she was gone dead on the side of the road. So it was a traumatic call.
So when you were there, you knew nothing about what had happened before you got there?
We did not.
And your role had nothing to do with any of that investigation?
We did not.
You were solely focused on caring for the patient?
Correct.
Did you have any other role other than caring for the patient?
Just making sure she got to the hospital safely. She didn't hurt herself.
During those conversations, are you and firefighter Whitley doing the same thing or different things?
Again, it depends on the call. I was lead tech, so I'm the one documented, giving a report to the nurses, the staff. So I was more kind of getting that information, my initial triage questions, and then just kind of sat and supported Miss Reed. And
were you writing down information, technical information about status and health on a report?
I was, yes.
While you were doing that, was your colleague speaking to Ms. Reed?
He was.
Did you have a chance at times to hear what they were speaking about?
Yeah, and no,
At other times, did you speak directly to Ms. Reed?
I have.
Can you describe her demeanor or temperament?
Initially, she was agitated because she didn't feel like she needed to go to the hospital. She said the statement she made, she didn't mean. She just kind of said it just because of the events that she went through. But then there'd be periods of which she'd be calm, and it would fluctuate. She would have like pressured speech, repetitive, but all in all, she was cooperative.
At some point, did you have a chance to speak to her directly about her mood?
About her mood?
About her mood.
I don't know if I understand the question.
Okay. Did she say anything to you about her last interaction with what she referred to as her husband?
Sustained.
Did she make any statements to you when you were giving her treatment or speaking to her about her husband?
I'll allow that, Akina.
One of the reasons why she was saying suicidal stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument. I didn't feel like it was my role to really find out the details on what was said. But that's what she said to me.
But the last thing she said to him was an argument?
Yep.
Sustained.
Did she tell you what the argument was about?
She did not.
Inevitably, did you get a chance to bring her to the hospital?
We did.
Did you stay in the back of the ambulance with her?
I did.
Did you continue to have conversations with her?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear conversations or parts of conversations she was having with your colleague?
I had parts.
When you get to the hospital, what happens next?
So we brought Miss Reed into the hospital, registered her, bring it to the psychiatric section.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
For some reason, the Commonwealth likes to make a big deal that Karen was so-called lying that this was her husband, or that she felt that close to him. So that's why she was killing him, because he was leaving her.
I have just one more.
They like to make it out like she was lying.
Yeah, and you know, he's performing well as a witness. This is really intense. People have never testified, man. It's scary. I don't care who you are. So you know, break. None of this is
When
ground.
we first arrived at the scene, there was at least two Canton police officers there. Still,
Correct.
do you remember their names?
Officer Saraf and Officer Mulvaney.
Okay. Their cruiser was there. You said that an engine was still there.
Correct.
And was there another ambulance there, or the other ambulance had already left the scene? They cleared.
They had already transported to the hospital.
Remind me, you were in ambulance two.
I was ambulance 2.
Got it. You parked behind the SUV where you ultimately made contact with Miss Reed, correct?
I think it was more in front of the SUV because the way the SUV was parked.
Got it. Got out of the ambulance, ultimately made contact with Miss Reed through the passenger door.
Correct.
Had a short conversation with her there.
I did.
You said it was maybe 5 to 8 minutes.
More than 5 minutes because of the weather conditions.
Okay, nothing of great consequence. I'm guessing just an initial, I think you called it sort of a triage assessment.
Well, it's more of just introducing myself and asking her how she was doing.
Got it. And then there was one other person in the cab of the vehicle as well.
There was.
Female, male.
Female.
So there are 2 females, one Miss Reed, one another female. Did you see any other civilian females out there?
I didn't see.
Okay,
But
so at least where you were, the contact that you had with Miss Reed and this other female, there was just 2 of them, not a third one.
from what I saw, correct.
Did you get the other female's name?
Not at the time. I did not.
Okay. By the way, have you since gotten her name?
Based on a conversation Firefighter Whitley and Miss Reed had back in the ambulance.
Got it. Okay. And who is that other person?
Miss Carrie Roberts.
Okay. When you first observed Miss Reed, did you note whether or not there was anything unusual about her physical appearance, meaning anything on her?
She did. Yes.
Describe that for the jurors, please.
She had some blood around her mouth, her neck area.
At that point, were you concerned about, obviously you're concerned mainly about her safety and getting her safely to the hospital, correct?
That's correct.
Were you worried that might be her blood?
She had said that she had given CPR to her husband.
Okay, you jumped a question ahead. I was going to say, did she tell you that it was in fact not her blood?
She did. So that kind of, in a way, ruled it out.
Okay.
No injury for me.
And you didn't notice anything about her that looked like she was physically injured, physically in harm?
I did not.
Okay. She indicated that she had given CPR, mouth-to-mouth, attempts at mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
She did.
And that would account for the blood on her face and in her hair and on her neck?
That's what she told me.
Okay. And based on your observations of her, you didn't have any reason to quarrel with that?
Correct.
You indicated that her tone was somewhat rapid and repetitive. Is that right?
It fluctuated. So at times it was, yes.
Did it appear to you at that time that she had gone through a pretty significant trauma, as best you were trained at the time? Objection.
A little bit more of a foundation. I'll give it to you.
Sure. Have you ever, in your course of training, seen individuals who have gone through some sort of a traumatic event?
Frequently.
Frequently.
Everyone's different though.
Understood. Obviously, everybody's got their own personalities and the way of dealing with those things, right?
Sure.
Have you been able to, through your training, assess whether, at least in your belief, your observations, if someone has gone through a relatively traumatic event, as opposed to just someone whistling down the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. Did it appear at that time when you're interacting with Ms. Reed that she was showing the signs consistent of having gone through a trauma?
At the time, yes.
Okay. So hence the rapid speech, the repetitive speech, things of that nature.
Correct. For her, for the defendant, some people don't have rapid,
Understood. I'm just talking about your observations of her at that time.
Yes, sir.
Her demeanor was consistent with having gone through a significant trauma.
For the situation, sure. Yes.
Okay. You said that she went from calmness to agitation. The agitation you accounted for being, I don't necessarily want to go to the hospital. I don't want to be sectioned, correct?
She felt like she didn't need to. It wasn't, she wasn't going to act on her comments about wanting to harm herself.
You called it, I think in a report, it's SI, suicidal ideation.
Correct.
That's obviously of great concern to you and your partners when you're assessing the patient, correct?
That's right.
You don't want to leave someone on their own if they're going to self-harm, correct?
That's correct.
You pretty quickly assessed, I'm guessing, Firefighter Becker, that she was not, in fact, in the position to self-harm. That I think you said that the statements that she originally made, if John dies, I don't want to live, were not necessarily at the level of actual suicidal ideation. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I believed her because of the information we got and what she went through.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your.
Any reason not to believe her now?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Of course. It's probably my fault. At the time that you assessed her, even though she had made some comments about if John doesn't live, I don't want to live either, you did not elevate that to the level of her being suicidal at that moment.
So I couldn't rule it out, but
okay.
I didn't think it was a huge threat at the time.
Understood.
But we couldn't rule it out, so that's why we had to take her to the hospital.
Understood. I mean, you had a Section 12. You had to take her irrespective of what you ruled in or out, right?
Right.
Okay. Firefighter Whitley was with you in the back of the ambulance the entire time you were with Miss Reed, correct?
Not the entire time. He was before we started transporting. He was kind of in and out trying to find more of, talking to the police officers, find more of a story of, what happened, okay. why we're taking the defendant on a Section 12.
Once you and Miss Reed were in the back of the ambulance, Firefighter Whitley then joined you in the back of the ambulance?
He did.
How much time lapsed?
It was a couple minutes at the most.
Okay, so it wasn't a lengthy amount of time.
It wasn't lengthy.
And he was with you during the transport, along with Miss Reed, for the whole transport back to Good Sam.
Yes.
And you said on direct examination, I think your phrase was, all in all, she was cooperative with us.
For the majority of the transport, yes.
Okay. Never became combative, never got physical, nothing like that?
No.
Okay. She did refer to Mr. O'Keefe as her husband or her spouse?
That's correct.
You're aware of HIPAA rules, obviously. You're in the medical field, correct?
Correct.
You're aware at the time that HIPAA rules would demand or dictate that unless you're a spouse or a parent or a child, there are certain rules against getting or providing information to someone who isn't one of those close family members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You previously indicated on direct examination that, I think your words were, that Ms. Reed indicated that her last conversation she had with her husband was an argument, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified about that statement in other particulars, right? Other hearings.
I have.
You're paraphrasing. You didn't write down what she said about her previous interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, and you didn't record those on a tape recorder, correct?
I wrote down in my report that she said she had an argument.
Right. You didn't write it down at the time. That was a bad question on my part. You weren't taking notes as she was speaking.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, it just kind of for every call, we jot down notes on a notepad, just so, when we give the staff a report, we can read off it.
Do you have those notes?
I don't.
Okay. Do you think you took notes or no?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I could have been typing them on the computer. That's what we typed the report on at the time.
Do you have an independent recollection of taking notes, either handwritten or on a computer as you sit here right now?
I couldn't tell you if I did one or the other. Sometimes I write on the computer, sometimes I don't.
Or you might not have written anything down, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in any event, you weren't taking down, even if you were taking notes, you weren't taking down verbatim quotes of what she was saying. You were paraphrasing the information that was coming to you, correct?
That's correct.
All right. You had previously said or testified that the last time rephrase that just a little bit. You previously indicated in recounting what it was that Miss Reed actually said to you was something along the lines of she was upset because her last words to him were because of her last words to him being in anger.
I'm going to allow the question.
Is that correct?
Well, I probably phrased it a little wrongly. The last words. It was the last conversation.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question is a simple one. In a previous hearing, did you use the phrase "her last words to him"?
Yes, I did. I did.
And that was at a hearing where you were under oath, just like you are now, correct?
Correct.
That was a little closer in time than we are now. It was maybe a year ago, correct?
Correct.
Actually, my mistake. It was about 2.5 years ago. It was a grand jury, correct?
Grand jury, yes.
Okay. And the phrase that you used was, and I want to concentrate on that for just a quick second, Firefighter Becker.
Sure.
The phrase that you used at that time was that she said, quote, like her last words to him. She was upset about her, quote, last words to him. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, can I see counsel at sidebar, please?
Sidebar. Everybody loves a sidebar.
Now she doesn't play the sound as far as we know, right? Like she doesn't have the white noise.
She might have the white noise, but I think there was a mandate from her for the pool camera for them to ace the sound.
Oh yeah, no. The pool camera's totally separate. So I'm more interested in with the size of that courtroom. Can you just hear every single?
I'm fairly certain she uses the white noise. Like
Yeah.
I remember it from trial one because like you, dude, that jury box is right there.
It's got to be right there. Like
Right there.
and you got to have that white noise. Is there a lot of amplification in this courtroom? Like there's mics, but I don't know if it's got full AV or not.
It does not, because when Brennan gave his closing and he was a wanderer.
Oh yeah, and then in the opening,
opening.
There were some real quiet moments. So yeah,
didn't hear him. Yeah,
and obviously they're having a discussion because look at all this action from our attendees.
Yes.
Do they swap out the media people again next week?
I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how
May I
that
continue,
works.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. When you were recounting the conversation that Ms. Reed indicated that she was upset about, you also indicated, in addition to using the phrase "her last words to him," you also said that it was earlier in the night, correct? They had an argument earlier in the night.
I don't recall.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, take a look at the top paragraph, very, very small print. Let me know when you've refreshed your recollection.
Yes.
Great. May I approach?
Yes.
When you wrote your report, you had indicated that when she was describing the argument that you testified to on direct, it was about an argument that was, quote, earlier in the night.
Earlier in the night, correct?
Okay. And then you recounted that statement, that same statement in the grand jury later on as at least including, quote, her last words. Is that right?
Her last words.
You were talking about an argument that they had, and then she was upset, and you were paraphrasing her. And one of the things that you paraphrased was, in fact, your statement was she was upset that was like her last words to him, correct?
She said that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Were you also made aware, did she tell you that her last words to him were in voicemails? Did she say that?
She didn't give any details.
Did you ask her, what were your last words to him?
I did not.
Did she ever say whether or not she believed he ever received her last words to him?
There's no other details. There's no other details other than what she said.
Okay. But she did, when she was having this conversation with you about her last words to him, she did actually take out her phone and show you a bunch of missed calls to him at the same time, didn't she?
She tried to, yes.
Okay. In your mind, did you put two and two together that what she was actually talking about were the missed calls and her being upset about her last words to him, being very angry on those missed calls, those voicemails? Did you put those two things together?
I did.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Hey, Mr. Brennan.
So when Ms. Reed told you that she was sad because her last conversation, or her last thing that she had said to him was an argument, did she ever suggest that was in a voicemail?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest it was in a voicemail?
She did not.
Did she ever suggest that she didn't actually speak to him, but instead it was some type of message?
Objection.
Did she ever suggest that?
She did not.
In fact, you wrote a report saying that there was an argument earlier in the night, didn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
You then were interviewed, weren't you? You
Yes.
interviewed on February 14th, 2022?
Yes.
And you referred to the fact that she told you there was an argument earlier in the night?
Argument early in the night.
And she was telling you this when you were speaking to her that morning?
Correct. Around 6 a.m. Yes.
And earlier in the night, do you know if she was referring to 12:30
I did not know.
or 12:15
No,
or midnight?
I didn't know the time.
So his answer is he doesn't know.
You testified in the grand jury, and Attorney Jackson just asked you some questions about part of the statement you made to the grand jury when he said, like her last words. Would you like to put that in context of the whole statement you made? Do you remember
Her last words.
Do you remember the entire statement that you made in the grand jury about the statement that was made to you?
I would have to.
May I approach?
Yes.
This is page 81, lines 1 through 4. Please read it to yourself.
Right here, sir.
1 through 4, please.
Yes.
Now, when you made that statement you were asked about in the grand jury, you didn't just say, like her last words, did you?
No.
You explained your memory to the grand jury?
Objection.
Ask him what he told the grand jury.
The grand jury, do you know it was on April 21st, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell the grand jury? So she
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for a second, please.
What's going on? Because I was distracted working on something for court today.
Yeah, no, it's more of this sidebar where he's I don't like the way that Bev, and there's a comment that literally it's just, hold on, let me scroll back on it. It's just, did Bev just suggest how to ask a question to Hank? And we've seen some of that, and it's, are they trying to be efficient, or is there a thumb being put on the scale, and how does a jury react? Because when you see that familiarity and collegiality in a highly polarized exchange, when it can show differences, rightfully or wrongfully.
So I'm showing you that statement that you made. That includes last words. But there's more to the statement, isn't there?
She was upset.
I'd like you to read
Oh,
your
sorry.
entire
Sure.
statement, 1 through 5. You can read that out loud.
So she was also she was upset also because she said they had, the last time they had talked, she had gotten into an argument. So she was upset that was like her last words to him.
And so when you were speaking about her last words to him, were you referring to the argument?
Correct.
And for the
You
last word,
testified again regarding this issue, didn't you, in May 3rd, 2024?
Correct.
And at that point, did you think or believe that the conversation she was relating to you was about a voicemail?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Did you use the word again on May 3rd, 2024, argument?
Objection.
I'm going to allow this.
I used argument.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
And everybody, what they're trying to do is trying to attach emotions to this statement, and it's just awkward questioning. But what it's doing is encoding this into the jury. The jury is watching this discussion about how to get some very basic information, and watching the struggle is actually a highlighting effort by Brennan. Like every moment that Brennan gets to belabor this, he knows how to ask these questions in different ways. So much of these objectionable questions, just like Ali was talking about, just get rephrased. Like a rephrasing totally gets rid of the speculation. How did you feel about that? What was your opinion upon seeing that?
So, because I was trying to communicate with a lawyer. It sounds like I might not have to go to court now, but so this issue is about his notes and whether he wrote that she said there was an argument. What is the crux of what the state's established with this?
He's just trying to get the witness to say that he's been consistent throughout the entire and talk about the last words, these were the last words, and that emphasis being they were arguing. The last communication they had that we can prove as the Commonwealth was that they were at odds at each other. So don't buy any of the defense line about how this is a loving couple. And that's one of the fundamental things that the jury has to wrestle with. Is this a couple having, kind of normal couple arguments, screaming, moaning, or is this a couple on the verge of a destructive moment? Is this a breakup, or is this just, kind of how it goes? Humorously, when I moved up to Massachusetts for undergrad, my family was the no conflict family. We avoid all there shall not be voices raised. If a voice
avoid is the word.
Yeah.
Avoid.
Voice got raised in my house growing up. Holy shit. It was going to be big. Now, my roommate, a great guy that I love, a professor, now Harvard trained, his family fought like cats and dogs every minute of the day. You went over to his house, they would yell and scream. That's just the way their family is.
Right.
So how do you educate a jury about, hey, listen, I know your family may have conflict that looks like this, but in this family, conflict's usual. And then you've got
we're talking Boston on the East Coast. I feel like we're more of, we air things out. Like in my family, we're not sitting around fighting, but if there's something that needs to be said or addressed, it's said or addressed.
Not shy as a community. On Twitter yesterday, there are people that we are massholes. We're proud of it. That is part of our terroir. That you want to live on the south side, south of man, you're gonna get some. So for some of us looking at a couple exchanging furious texts, calling each other every bad name in the universe,
bless
that
your
would be
heart,
horrifying.
Holly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I chimed in with a
Otherwise,
Southern passive-aggressive comment. Bless your heart. That's how they do it in the South.
It's the nicest mean thing you can say.
Matt?
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's see how it changes.
Sir, when you wrote the report of your notes to put in your report, do you remember the word argument?
I did.
Do you remember her actually saying the word argument?
I did.
Do you remember her ever saying any word about voice messages?
I did not.
You said that there was somebody in the front seat of the car with the defendant?
It was.
And you later learned from the defendant it was a person by the name of Kerry Roberts?
Correct.
Can you share with us the context? How did you learn that?
The defendant and my partner, firefighter Whitley, had a conversation.
I'm going to allow it.
So the defendant brought up how if her husband had died at the time, she didn't know how she was going to take care of his kids.
I'm going to allow this.
And
why? It's hearsay.
Firefighter Whitley mentioned that she had like a strong support system. All the friends are on Canton, and
Right. He wasn't there for the conversation. Why is she letting him testify to it?
And this is the stuff
the
that
reason they're making a big deal out of this because they have maintained a hard and fast position that they were not arguing that night. That night, nothing happened after those text messages. Everything was washed aside. The last thing was not an argument. So it's like a big point to them, but they're making a bigger point by doing all of this. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And does this change what happened? No. Does it matter whether they were arguing or not when the death occurred? It can impact it. It can change some motivation. But really, does it matter? No, it doesn't. People regret the last time that they had contact with someone before a death in a lot of deaths. Psychologically, we do this thing in trainings where it's called an unfinished business, where we do a reenactment so you can have the conversation for processing with someone who's no longer available because they're dead, because you don't get to go back and change that last exchange.
So
and that's a trauma.
The defense made 0 points on their cross. They tried to make it that he didn't know, but they got nowhere, or because
I think the defense
made some progress, but now it's all
both
downhill?
sides are getting some benefit of this, depending on what perspective, because regardless of whether your side wants this to be an argument or doesn't want it to be an argument, the focus on the discussion about whether it was an argument, that's a value to the jury. Because if you're on the defense, the state's trying to push this whole they were arguing theory. Sure, they could have been. Does it matter? No.
Right, but now they're making it look like it matters. With all of this, they're making it look like it's matters. Like the jury's
they
like,
need this to be a fight because it makes their version of and their theory work better.
the state does, correct?
Yeah,
But by the defense fighting this so hard, it's like they're giving it more air than it needed. Like, so what if
unnecessary highlighting? Anytime you contest something, it's that spotlight on and the jury, man, they're listening to everything, and it goes up, it goes down, their attention, it vacillates. When everybody's suddenly now paying attention to something and Judge Canone's bringing them up, I gotta wake up for this part.
Right, I gotta wake up, something's happening.
Yeah, and
they could have just addressed it at closing, like, she meant earlier that day, not the last thing.
And does it become a drop of the mic? They can't even tell you whether they were fighting or not, or they were clearly fighting. Like, so many options.
When you spoke to the defendant and she shared with you that her last words with her husband were an argument, why didn't you ask for more detail about that?
I didn't feel it was at the time we went about the call as that we didn't think we would be witnesses in a murder trial. We were there to support Karen and ultimately get to the hospital safely.
And you were asked about trauma, and you said that you observed that the person may be in trauma. Ms. Reed.
A traumatic event,
traumatic event.
Right.
Do you have any idea what caused that traumatic event?
I did not.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything?
Very quickly, you indicated that you were asked on redirect examination by Mr. Brennan whether earlier in the night could have been 12 or 12:15 a.m., correct?
That's what he asked, yes.
And earlier in the night could have been 6 o'clock p.m.
Early in the night, yeah, correct.
Could have been 5 o'clock p.m.
Could have been.
Could have been 7 o'clock p.m.
Sure.
Okay. You were also asked whether or not Ms. Reed actually specifically mentioned voicemails when she talked about those last words. And you said she didn't.
That I remember, correct.
But she did show you her phone.
She tried to.
And she did show you a bunch of missed calls to John O'Keefe, correct?
I wasn't going to look through her phone. I don't know who she called.
Thank you.
When she said about the argument, she said those were the last words, the argument, right?
That's correct.
Sustained. All right. Jurors disregard that.
Poke.
All right, you are all set.
Hold this down a second. Apparently,
This is a
there's
good place to stop for the
touch
day.
of an emergency in my house. I'll be right
The
back.
court pleases yes.
Jurors, we could do 6 minutes, but I think this is probably a good place to start.
All right, it's my stream now. I'm totally in charge. Everybody, I need you to stay. I loved it when Josh was the only one on the stream, and you should rename it the Josh and some cats stream, right?
When
I think
you
that's
were out in that
fantastic.
room waiting for us, we're in here getting work done to make things more efficient for the trial, especially a trial this long. We've decided that we're going to spend Monday afternoon again trying to streamline this trial and deal with issues that we have to deal with. So Monday for you will be a half a day. All right, so I just wanted to tell you that before you left today. Please, again, those 3 cautions: do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any
Makes
independent
sense.
research or
They're going to do the half
investigation in this case.
day,
If
and
you happen
she,
to see, hear, or read anything
Judge
about this
Canone,
case,
hopefully has seen that,
please
that
disregard it.
this
Let us
could
know. I
be
guess the fourth
faster
caution is
or
to stay
better
on top of it.
planned
Please be
and
very
better
careful.
organized because
All right, have a
she's
good weekend.
managing.
Monday morning.
All right,
And I'd like to see counsel at sidebar, please.
Oh, everybody gets the after school talk. Nah, so so what's happening, and I love this fan. They need to market the fan better. I think we could have some product placement. Where is Dan's Fan City? Because this should be an all fan marketing opportunity, unlike anything else. Only a fan, something of that level. What's happening right now, obviously, is the Judge Canone is having the postscript pre-lunch. Do we need to come back and have stuff actually in court this afternoon, or can we handle all this via emails and phone calls? And can I send y'all home? Because I want to send all my staff and everybody home. Judges got to keep managing their course. And bluntly, Judge Cannone probably has some work to do on a couple other cases. So she's going to recover some time. I don't believe we're probably going to get audio. I imagine the camera stream which is governed by that pool agreement. It's going to be silent, and we're just going to get the group. And as soon as she dismisses them from the bench, probably asking them, do you guys want to come in and talk or do anything this afternoon? Then we'll see the rest of the courtroom dismissed. Looks like we've got a bunch of the deputies in there trying to spot some familiar faces. Don't know anything yet about what next week's press coverage is going to look like and when they do that lottery. If anybody knows when they do that lottery, that I've heard scuttlebutt about how aggressive it can be, but I don't know. ARCA, saw that from Shannon. This ARCA thing, and I get to talk now because Bob and Allie are gone. This ARCA thing, it can fall in so many directions. It is the grenade in this trial in so many ways. So think about it. If you remove so much else of what we know about this case, you're a juror. You know nothing about who ARCA is, what ARCA is there for. You know that you're there on this really giant drunk driving murder case involving a cop. So how ARCA gets introduced to the jury from the very beginning, first impressions matter. Imagine the first impression about an expert witness that has at different times during this case been the top choice in selection by a government investigating criminal justice prosecution agency. But then when they didn't get it, Matt's definitely there. I've been texting with him this week. Handsomest man in true crime, by the way. Like, seriously. One of those illegally good-looking guys if you ever stand next to him. So what ends up happening with this ARCA, imagine you're this juror and there's this big contested case and you've been watching these lawyers and judge and you only get to see some of it. You don't know what they're discussing and you're interested because, hold on, they're regulating what you get to hear as a juror. Jury trials are all about hiding from the jury what's happening. Jurors automatically know they only get this very specific curated viewpoint of what the court is going to let them see. So ARCA pops up. Who are they? Man, I don't know. What are they there for? Man, I don't know. What are they going to be able to testify to? Man, I don't know. Imagine how the first impression then works. If you learn that ARCA has been brought in by one group versus another group, you're going to attach an emotional value to that. If you learn that they were brought in by a federal investigation or by state investigation, that would give you some benefit that they might be really good at their job since they're a top contractor for a prosecuting agency. But then you see that they're not being used anymore and the defense is using them. That's a really specific concept in your brain versus imagine the introduction being, this is the defense's expert. If you only know this is the defense's expert, a lot of people will automatically attribute some sort of pro-defense bias to the fact that this is who the defense hired. Now, can you fix that bias in a jury's brain? That's what the state wants. Brennan would love the jury to turn around with ARCA and go, oh, this was a rejected contractor that was trying to get paid and will sell their services to anyone. Man, you get that injected into a jury's brain, that's incredibly powerful stuff. Delegitimizing an expert is a big issue anytime you get expert witnesses involved. But then you get to talk about how the defense is going to bring up these ARCA people. And if you're going to be AJ or Yanedi, this was the expert the government wanted until they told the truth, and it's a truth the government didn't want you to see. Look at how hard they're fighting. And if I'm on the defense, I'm illustrating exactly how hard the Commonwealth is working to prevent you jurors from seeing someone they initially would have hired.
100%.
And then you get into the payment because, all right, say ARCA's going to come in. How's Hank Brennan going to continue to delegitimize them? Oh, we wanted these guys until we decided their work product was bad. We decided it didn't work. And then what did they? They sold themselves to Karen Reed. And they sold themselves because they'll say anything for money. And then they hid all these communicate. At this point, you're painting with broad brushes, but boy, the paint is sticky. It's hard to wipe through when you've been told these are the experts. The people who initially retained them didn't like the results, but then the other side does like the results. How is that going to affect ARCA's value, weight, not the admissibility, the value and weight of their conclusions? Could those be affected by who's paying them? Why isn't the payment and contract unbelievably explicit? If you are trying to support the defense, I would think you'd want all these communications to be super open and, hey, yeah, this is an expert. We paid him, and here's our conversations, and look at how confident we are. That didn't happen. They're obviously hiding some uncomfortable communications. And that's a big problem because you're casting a new shadow, more shade on the relationship between the defense and the defense expert witnesses who, let's just say it, defense expert witnesses and plaintiffs expert or prosecution expert witnesses are paid to inform a jury. Fact.
100%. I mean, that was the thing leading into the first trial when she would not allow them to say who they had been hired by. You know, it left that in the jurors' minds, and they were sitting there trying to figure it out, wasting time.
And I know Canone does not allow jury questions, but this is the exact scenario that so many lawyers are scared about. So say this doesn't get litigated effectively in front of a jury to answer their questions. In jurisdictions like mine, where now judges are allowing juror questions, what stops a juror from asking, who hired the expert witness first? Can we get a copy of the contract? Like some really straight down the middle questions that would rip the Band-Aid off of both sides. Because for all we know, there are messages and information crapping on one side or another, complaining. There are asides and comments that can be construed strongly one way or another where they might not have been intended to weigh in that way or another. There's so many delicate bits of the juggling. This arc of voir dire, how Judge Canone allows this in, I think is one of the probably 3 or 4 key fulcrums in the entire case.
It really is. And I hope, because when we were talking about it during this voir dire, I think because ARCA is probably very good at billing, that I think that they probably will have maintained those text messages because I'm assuming that they billed for them.
They billed for them because
All right, we'll see you Monday. All right. So Tori.
There are definitely records of any communication. And what happens when you get an argument?
Margaret, thank you.
So they're done. I think they're done.
That looks done. So when it comes to these text messages, you always get to the bottom of what happened in text and messages by comparing what independent groups have all provided. If one side said the entire conversation, here's a copy of it, and there's 50 text messages, and the other side says, here's a copy of the conversation, here's 200 text messages, very clearly one side has underperformed their obligation. Yes. And that's kind of the trap that you use during investigations, is to show, hey, that guy gave me all this stuff, you only gave me this, one of you is not being honest. Right. With all the ARCA stuff, it's up in the air. And I can't tell you that I know what's really out there. There are messages that I think there are bills for. It opens up all the door about whether ARCA is being honest with the court. If the Commonwealth can successfully attach a lack of honesty from the start of the relationship to expert witness testimony, that's a heavy chain. That's heavy. Expert witnesses are already called, prostitutes because they speak for money. And they speak specifically for money. They speak in a technical, specific way for money. That can easily be lost control of. It can be turned around. It can go from a positive to an absolute negative. with just the turn of a phrase.
Yeah, and because that's the problem. Because I mean, the saving grace is the testing was done prior to either party knowing that they existed. However, to your point, if Brennan's able to dig into this presumed bias that now exists, you know, the impact that that'll have on the jury is problematic. I mean, it takes away that magic salve that is these witnesses that came in independently and just, hey, this is what our, like, no one hired us. This is our honest evaluation. That's gone.
And then you get into Canone's perspective. Hey, it's evidence. The state hired it. The defense hired it. It's clearly expert. They're expert. They're going to get qualified as experts. Now, both sides don't get to hire you and then not be qualified. Fascinating to watch a voir dire with, hold on, you initially hired them as experts and now are trying to say that they don't have the expertise you openly solicited their expert opinion for. That's a really fascinating interaction in front of Canone. Canone can really restrict this potential testimony. Remember, she has the ability to write a whole handbook on, you can ask this, you can't ask that. Now that I know the truth because I'm the judge, these are, you can go there, these are where you can't. And by the way, if you mention this issue, it's going to open a door. And then you've got ill intent of litigators and witnesses. If you think that witnesses don't intentionally open doors, intentionally violate clear rulings because they want to, they're not the one going to jail. ARCA looks at this trial and it could make their business for the next 20 years. It could also ruin them professionally.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine if professionally they come back and the press goes, everything was going great for the Commonwealth until this happened, or the defense until this happened.
I know it.
This is not.
Do you have like your phone on YouTube or something? I'm hearing an echo. I'm gonna leave.
Maybe, but I'm getting a bunch of calls in, and actually, I've got to jump off here for just a little bit because it's 1:30.
I mean, we're done for the day anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, I may jump on if you were still on later day, but I got to get some stuff done, and I've got a terrible. All right. Guy gets arrested in South Georgia for some drugs and some guns. I know nothing about him, never had any contact with him. I get a call from another state, a fancy state on the West Coast, California, where some very wealthy people woke up and were told by their bank, hey, your big business account is frozen and seized. Why? Well, we got a letter from this rural Georgia sheriff saying that account may be connected to this little bit of dope and a gun and like $5,000 in cash. So they wrote a letter to the bank and froze their account.
Wow.
You don't know any other contact between them. DA, sheriffs won't talk to us. There's a seizure. And there's this very nice family on the West Coast that would really like access to their giant bank account that they have no idea why a random Georgia sheriff has said is connected to a drug bust in nowhere. And it's like, okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, that seizure game the government plays.
They've cranked it back here like for 5 or 10 years. And thank you guys so much for being so. I love talking with Bob and I love this stuff. I get paid nothing for all of my appearances. I just love this stuff. I love my fan. I love talking about this stuff. What I do. But the seizure stuff for about 10 years, Georgia funded every capital improvement at every law enforcement in Georgia by seizures because you couldn't spend it on salaries. You could only spend it on capital improvement. So that's all the cars, all the uniforms, all the guns. When you see your, 5,000 person community, but they've got a tank. That's how that big up. But what they did was everybody that got a ticket for anything got everything seized. And there were some really ridiculous cases of, grandpa and grandma getting their coin collection stolen by the police. But they brought that back. But forfeiture still is a major driver for certain law enforcement discussions and generates millions of dollars. Your money does not have the same rights you do. These are called in rem proceedings where you're not suing a person. You are suing the money, the physical money is the recipient of the lawsuit. And you put a public notice to you. We are the government. We are suing this money If anybody else has a claim to this money, you better tell us now. Otherwise, we're going to keep the money. And at that point, how much money are you going to spend to fight to save money?
Right.
My first one of these was 25 years ago. It was a bunch of Ethiopian cab drivers that in certain conservative Muslim universes, they do not do savings and interest. They have other forms of communal money saving. And a bunch of Ethiopian taxi drivers had put all their money and it was going to get shipped back to Ethiopia because I don't know if you've been to Ethiopia. I've heard it's rough. I heard it's real good there. So they had, a sack full of greenbacks at the Detroit airport coming from Georgia to Detroit to Addis Ababa. And the Fed said, where's the money from? And they took it. Now, we could have spent literally tens of thousands of dollars creating 30 affidavits, tracking all this money, but it was going to cost them tons of money and then maybe not even win.
Exactly.
And it's awful. There's been a number of, in Georgia, Brendan O'Keefe, one of the great local reporters for CBS Atlanta News First, ran a undercover series because wealthy, primarily minorities, when they were getting on Delta flights, were all magically getting stopped. Because, let's just say it, it's kind of illegal to fly with a bunch of cash as a minority out of Atlanta.
Yep.
And the law enforcement was like, no, it's not. This is all reasonable standard law enforcement. We he's dressed nice.
Flying
he's probably a criminal. And it took a very famous entertainer getting arrested, and then I referred that very famous entertainer to Jones Day, which is one of the largest law firms in the world. And when they speak airlines, listen. And that's the only way we stop the Fed from stopping all these and just seizing the money. And they take 5, 10, 15, 20,000 bucks in cash. And then they'd give you a letter saying, if you'd like your money back, you can ask for it. But are you going to spend 5, 10, 15, $20,000 to recover the money and most people just gave up.
Right. Exactly.
Because unless you've got a receipt that's like, here's the check where it got deposited. The federal government turned around and was like, hey, we don't know where that money came from. That means it's drugs.
I mean, that's why it's such a tasty morsel for the feds. And I mean, like in Illinois, the state seizures are unbelievable.
Most of ours are state now. Most of ours are state. And our bigger cities have kind of figured out it was a losing proposition. They only go after a larger amount. The rural counties, man, it doesn't matter. You were smoking a joint driving that ATV, you're a dope dealer. That ATV has to do with drug dealing because you transport your dope while driving that ATV. That ATV is going to the sheriff's sale.
Yep, exactly. And if it's cash, we keep it.
Yeah.
It's
they got toys.
Very lucrative business.
Gun seizure. So guns, I know this is going to hurt some people's life. Guns are a valuable asset that are an efficient store of value for certain communities. If you have a pistol, it's always worth a couple $100. There's a huge collectible firearm universe. And there's an issue. Does me having 5 guns make me a psychopath or a normal American? What about if it's 100 guns? I got clients that have many guns because they're collectors and it's their money. But if you wrote it up in a newspaper article, it would be man found with drugs and 600 firearms and 250,000 rounds.
Right. Cult leader or drug dealer, one of the two.
And those guns are worth money. Oh my God. They do not get destroyed to keep guns off the street. No. Those guns get sold right back to the lowest bidder, to the highest bidder. And they are right back in the community. And that's what drives me nuts because, I'm a crappy guns. Like if you want a prior service issue Glock 9 or 40 retail, you're talking $200-300. And there are tens of thousands of them. Because every cop in America was given one. And then after 5 years, they're like, I want my new one. And they don't destroy those farms. They just get resold. And now you got a Glock switch. Suddenly you got a federal machine gun in your hand that will get you locked up for 10 or 20 years.
Yeah. And then they'll do it all over again. They'll keep reselling weapon. All right, dude.
I love it, man. Thank you so much. We will talk about this case till I'm blue in the face. I'll be here all next week. Thank you so much for the invite and everybody for watching.
Have a beautiful weekend, my friend.
You too, y'all.
All right, brother. Guys, the best. All right, so short day. I had a little medical emergency. I had to dip out there for a second. Our Gloria, who's been with us for 15 years, I had to call an ambulance and they had to come get her. So don't want to speculate, but yeah, so that's where I dipped to towards the end. Did everybody get the love? I think Leslie Never Sleeps, PR marketing agencies. I think that you're referring back to what we were talking about, how to handle the way that the media and social media has seemingly really been able to insert itself into cases in recent vintage. So thank you for that. Lisa Ridiculous. They wanted, oh, I think Allie did that one. Oh wait, ridiculous. They want a mental detainer on her, so anybody going through trauma is involuntarily detained. Such a setup. It's crazy. I mean, from now our son's a fire medic, and those guys when they're going out there, there's trigger words that if they hear them, it's not their purview. They're always going to err on the side of caution. If you know what I mean? They're not psychologists. They're not going to sit there and evaluate if somebody, I mean, because people throw that out there on occasion, I'll unalive myself, like, if this happens, people say that without necessarily meaning it, but from a first responder's perspective, they have a mandate. Like if you say it, they're going to send you in, and then it'll become the issue of whoever's going to do the evaluation at a hospital who's trained to do it. But yeah, I mean, the way they played that out, it's hard to know. I mean, and it's sticky in this case just because of all the shit that we know. So, but thank you so much for that, Lisa. Cult Lori got a victim's advocate. Karen got a straight jacket. Justice, please be served. Civil suit prevail for Karen. Here. And thank you again. Shannon, happy to be here with you, Bob, Allie, and Josh. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. And thank you so much, Shannon. Itch. I'm a touch behind. I love the cat. I think Allie has put her foot down on the cat. I don't know. I'm going to have to work her behind the scenes. I mean, Mandy and I love the cat. Oh, hey, what's up? I was just wrapping up here. And then finally, Sky Goddess came in late. The $5 hollow. We appreciate you guys so much. They're done for the day, babe.
Yeah, I get it.
So, all right. We love you guys. We will be back Monday. We are going to spend the weekend in Kentucky, going to Louisville. So we're going to be down there. We'll be back bright and early Monday. Allie and I might, since it is the ARCA voir dire, the way, and we will be traveling. We're still going to be running it live. I'll probably be driving. So Allie,
one of us can do it from the car.
Allie will do it from the car, and I'll have Mandy or Tracy running the screen. So we'll be with you.
You guys can all be with your chatters, your fellow chat.
Yes. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm really excited. And if you don't know who she is, she's brilliant and fabulous. Dr. Shiloh from LA Not So Confidential. We did a live with them about the Zizian cult a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. She hit me up last night. She's like, I am so sucked into this case. She's like, I like the only day that I don't have something going on is Mondays. She's like, can I come on the show with you guys on Mondays? I'm like, 100%. So you will absolutely love her. So we're going to have special guests all through this trial. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And we look forward to that. I don't know. I warned her. I'm like, the ARCA voir dire is on Monday. So I don't know if Shiloh's going to jump in with us on this Monday, but every Monday thereafter, she'll be hanging with us. And you guys are going to, if you don't know her, you're going to absolutely love her. If you've never listened to their podcast, it's called LA Not So Confidential. It is phenomenal. It's two forensic psychologists that both work in the criminal justice system, and they're both super bright, super learned. They know their shit, and they're both really funny. So you're gonna love love Dr. Shiloh. So I'm really excited about that. So, all right. I hope you guys all have an amazing weekend. We are so thankful that you, out of all the channels, and there's a lot of them covering this case, we're incredibly thankful that you decide to spend your valuable time with us. It means the world to Allie and I. We love you guys for it. We love this community. We love you mods. Thank you for all your hard work. And I hope that you guys really, really have a wonderful weekend, because without you guys, I'm just an old man
talking a lot of shit.